In the ages before memory, before the dust of earth had been stirred by life or the breath of gods, the heavens alone bore witness to being. There, far beyond the circle of known stars, moved the great red planet Nibiru, vast, ancient, and crowned in shimmering storms of fire. Its light glowed dim and ruddy in the dark gulf of space, like a blood ember cast adrift. Around the sun it journeyed, not in a circle, but in a vast, stretched ellipse, venturing to the outer cold where light was but a whisper, then sweeping back toward the burning heart of creation, where even stone might melt from heat. When Nibiru strayed into the far reaches, ice gathered upon its mountains and darkness lingered like sleep. But deep beneath its crust, fires raged, volcanic throats exhaling their molten breath into the skies. The eruptions cloaked the planet in a living shroud of vapor and storm. This was Nibiru's armor, its second skin, a mantle of warmth in the frost, a veil of shelter when the sun's wrath burned close. The air of Nibiru was alive with movement, with rains that fell in diamond sheets, with winds that sculpted red plains into rippling waves, with mists that coiled through lush vales where strange beasts and fragrant blooms thrived. In the rivers swam creatures of shimmering scales. Upon the land moved herds with eyes like molten gold. The breath of the planet sustained all. From this abundance consciousness awoke. From the soil itself, as if the very planet sought to know its own reflection, a being arose, the first of the Anunnaki, the lords of the shining flame. They were tall and radiant, their flesh as bronze in the dawn light, their eyes mirrors of distant stars. Their blood carried the spark of the eternal seed, a gift of Nibiru's own essence. From generation to generation they multiplied, spreading across the continents of their crimson world. In the heart of this age of growth reigned a sovereign unlike any before him, Anshargal, the great prince of princes. His spirit was vast as the firmament, his mind an orbit of thought as intricate as Nibiru's own path. He ruled from the palace of rings whose towers shimmered with copper light, surrounded by banners of woven flame. By his side stood Kishargal, his half-sister and queen, whose wisdom was deep as the caverns of ice beneath the northern peaks. Together they brought order to the scattered tribes, uniting clans that had once known only rivalry and storm. Yet Anshargal's heart yearned for more than dominion. Night after night he climbed the observatory's high spire, where the thin air hummed like the edge of a blade. There, beneath the veil of Nibiru's scarlet heavens, he charted the course of stars. He traced the wandering lights, seeking the secrets of the heavens. The ways of the sky, he murmured, eyes fixed on the burning arc of the sun. They are the script of the divine. If we read them truly, we may yet understand ourselves. Kishargo joined him one night, the wind tugging at her silvered hair. "You chase the language of fire," she said softly. "But to what end, my lord?" He turned to her, the reflection of the stars caught in his gaze. "To know the measure of our home, to name its journey and its heartbeat, to bind time itself so that our reign may endure beyond the turning of ages." And so it was that Anshargal fixed the great circuit of Nibiru. One complete passage around the sun he named a Shar, the measure of all royal reigns and all histories to come. "Let it be known," he proclaimed before his gathered court, "that the Shar shall be the ruler's crown of time. Each orbit shall record our deeds, our victories, our trials. In this shall we know eternity." And the people rejoiced, for they saw that order had been given to the heavens. But the great prince was not content with numbers alone. To mark the rhythm of their world, he divided the Shar into 10 sacred portions and declared 2 festivals, one for the nearness to the sun, one for its long departure. "When the sun's warmth embraces us," said Anshargal, "standing before the roaring crowds of the capital, we shall celebrate the festival of warmth. Let the fires burn and the songs rise, for the gods are near and their light blesses our lands." And when Nibiru drifted far into the shadowed reaches, he decreed another. The festival of coolness shall mark our distance. Let the waters fall, the hearths glow, and the people remember that even in the cold, life endures. Thus were the old tribal rites replaced. The scattered customs of 100 peoples merged into 2 grand ceremonies, the very pulse of Nibiru itself, heat and cold, light and dark, nearness and withdrawal. Under these twin festivals, unity blossomed. For the first time, the Anunnaki saw themselves not as tribes, but as one people, the children of Nibiru, the shining ones of the red planet. And from the high towers of the capital, Anshargal gazed upon his world, his heart filled with the quiet gravity of destiny. The heavens, he whispered to Kishargo beside him, have written our path in flame and frost. Someday, others shall look up from distant worlds and wonder who first charted the stars. And our names shall endure, not as kings, but as keepers of the circuit. Ki Shardal smiled faintly, her eyes gleaming with the reflection of their planet's light. Then let the Shah begin, she said, and so it was. The first reckoning of time, the first breath of order in a universe of fire. The Anunnaki watched their twin suns rise, the red glare of their own world's heart and the distant golden light of the sun, and knew that destiny was awakening. For beyond the veil of stars, another world awaited, unformed and silent. And in that silence, the seed of Earth's future stirred. The epic of Nibiru, the reign of En-Shar, Lord of the Circuit. In the age of Anshar and Kishar, when the royal blood of the heavens still ruled with wisdom from the throne city of Agade, Nibiru turned in sorrow through the stars. Its once green fields had begun to fade, the orchards bore shriveled fruit, and the grains of the plains bowed not in abundance, but in weakness. The air hung heavy with dust, and the light of the sun, once a glory, now burned too fierce when near, and when far left the world shivering in cruel frost. In the palace of the 7 winds, beneath the high crimson vaults of Agada, Anshar summoned his wise ones, the savants and scholars who had long studied the deep mysteries of the heavens. They came robed in shimmering silks, bearing tablets etched with the markings of the stars. "Why do our fields die?" asked the king, his voice solemn as thunder behind the horizon. "Why does the warmth bite and the cold devour? Tell me, what curse shadows Nibiru's path?" The gathered wise ones bowed low, each hesitant to speak first. Then an elder named Lumar raised his head. "It has happened before, my king. In ages past, the circuit of Nibiru has brought warmth too great or cold too bitter. It is destiny itself carved into our orbit. The heavens decree it, we must endure." But another, younger, sharp-eyed, and defiant, rose from the ranks. "No, Majesty," he said, "the fault is not the heavens' decree, but our own world's breath. The air that shelters us has grown weak. I have seen the signs in the winds. The volcanoes that once fed the skies with their fiery breath now sleep. Their mouths are closed, their bellies cold. Without their spewing, our great shield wanes." A murmur spread through the hall like storm rippling across water. The king leaned forward. "Speak truly, learned one. The volcanoes, the very forges of our world, are silent?" "It is so," the scholar replied. "Their flame, once the womb of our skies, grows faint. Nibiru's robe of warmth is thinning. The shield that guarded us from the sun's wrath and from the frozen deep beyond is torn." An-Shar's heart grew heavy, and Ki-Shar's eyes dimmed. "Then we are wounded in the heavens," she whispered. "So it was that pestilence crept upon the fields. The toil of the people could not overcome it. The rivers shrank, and the meadows withered, and in time the royal scepter passed to their son An-Shar, 6th of the line, born with mind aflame with wisdom and eyes bright with inquiry. When he ascended the throne, the palace banners hung limp in the windless air, yet in him burned resolve. "The gods may test us," said Enshar to the assembled court, "but they have not abandoned us. If the heavens wound us, we shall read their language and find the cure." He turned his gaze to the stars and to the golden sun around which all worlds danced. For days and nights without count, Enshar watched the circuit of the skies. He measured their shining paths, mapping the celestial host that greeted Nibiru on its long and perilous journey. "There are 5, he declared before the circle of the learned. 5 companions that meet us upon our course. 5 sentinels of the sun. Their lights are bright and varied, each with its own breath, its own skin of air. He named them in honor of the forefathers. The first 2 that gleam as twins when we near the sun, I call Ananantu in reverence to the beginnings. Beyond them, vast and mighty, are Anshar and Kishar, the elder orbs whose size rivals our own. And between them courses a herald, swift and restless, Gaga, the messenger among the gods." The scholars nodded in awe. The 5 were known thereafter as the heavenly greeters, the companions of Nibiru's endless voyage, yet beyond them lay the great barrier, the hammered bracelet, a celestial ring of shattered stone and dust that girdled the heavens like a guardian of forbidden realms. It shielded the inner children of the sun from the wandering host beyond. "Let us study their air," said Enshar. "If life thrives in their midst, perhaps salvation lies among them. Perhaps the wound of our sky can be healed by learning theirs." Thus began the age of the celestial chariots. From the towers of a god, glittering vessels were crafted, golden-winged ships that rose screaming through the upper storms, bearing brave ones to the edge of heaven. They crossed the radiant void between worlds, seeking knowledge from the breath of other spheres. Years passed, and the findings returned, astonishing, troubling, wondrous. The 5 greeters, though each wrapped in mists or storms, held secrets of their own. None could sustain the life of Nibiru, yet each revealed the delicate craft by which the heavens were clothed. In the great council, Enshar stood among his sages. "Each circuit brings greater breach," he said. "Our sky thins still, our breath weakens. What shall we do to mend the wound?" Voices rose, fierce, desperate, divided. "Let us forge a new shield," cried one. "A mantle to embrace the planet, wrought by artifice rather than fire. Let us throw into the heavens particles of brightness, a shimmering coat to heal the breach." But when they hurled their powders into the storming sky, all fell back to the ground, useless dust upon the dying fields. Another faction spoke. "It was the volcanoes that birthed our atmosphere," said the elder Savankidor. "Let us awaken them anew. Let the mountains belch again as they did in the elder days when the world's breath was full." The hall trembled with the echo of his words. Yet the king asked, "And how, wise ones, shall we summon fire from the sleeping stones? What tools have we to command the deep?" No answer came. The silence stretched long as twilight over dying meadows. In the reign of Enshar, the breach in the skies grew still wider. Storms lost their strength. Rains no longer fell as before. The red plains turned barren, and from the towers of Agadi, one could see the horizon dimming, the edges of the world swallowed in gray. Yet Enshar did not despair. Standing upon the balcony of the celestial palace, he gazed toward the dark stretch of heaven where the hammered bracelet gleamed faintly, a wall of light and ruin. "There lies the gate of destiny," he said to his queen. "Beyond it wait secrets not yet known to gods nor kings. If the breath of our world fades, we shall journey farther still. For the children of Nibiru were born not only to rule the skies, but to conquer them. And the stars above seemed to shimmer in answer, as if whispering that even in the thinning air, the seed of a greater destiny had already begun to stir. The epic of Nibiru, the flight of Alalu. The great halls of Agade were heavy with unrest. The banners of crimson and gold that once proclaimed glory now hung still and dust-laden beneath the high vaults. From the bronze-pillared corridors echoed the low murmur of dissent, princes grumbling in secret chambers, counselors whispering behind veiled doors. The reign of Anu's forefathers had waned, and from the turmoil arose Lama, the eighth to bear the scepter. He was not of An's pure seed, and though the diadem rested upon his brow, it weighed upon him like a chain. In the council chambers, where once wisdom and fire had intertwined, the savants gathered, the learned, the elders, and the commanders of celestial craft. They stood before Lama, whose eyes were ringed with weariness, and whose heart faltered at the vastness of his charge. "The breach in our sky grows wider," spoke the sage Du'ur. "Our shield of life wanes still. The air that once wrapped us in warmth now leaks into the void. The fields wither and the people grow faint. The cure must be found, or Nibiru herself shall perish." A hush followed until another, Nungal, master of metals and deep craft, raised his voice. "There is a substance that may yet save us," he said. "A metal rare upon our world, but abundant beyond the hammered bracelet. Gold, the metal of eternity, bright as the sun's heart, ground to its finest dust and suspended aloft, it would mend the breach, sealing the torn heavens. Let us send celestial boats to gather it from the bracelet's edge." A murmur of hope swept through the chamber, yet from the opposite side came the voice of General Kuru, thunderous and hard. "Folly!" he cried. "To seek the metal in that shattered storm of stone is to court destruction. Let the volcanoes themselves be awakened. Let us forge weapons of terror, mighty enough to rend the bowels of Nibiru and make the mountains belch fire again. Thus shall our skies be healed by our own hand." The two visions clashed like titans of thought, and the council's debate roared through long nights beneath the red-lit domes. Lama listened, torn between fear and uncertainty, his hands trembling upon the armrests of the throne. In the silence that followed the last council, he spoke at last, voice low but resolved. "Let the celestial boats be built. Let them brave the hammered bracelet and return with gold for our salvation." And so the craftsmen of Agade set to their labors. They forged vessels of gleaming ore, swift as comets, their wings tipped with fire. One by one they rose into the void, their engines singing hymns to the gods. But as they reached the swirling boundary, the shining ring of ruin that circled the sun, the fleet was crushed. Great shards of rock tore through their hulls, flames streaked across the heavens as the chariots of hope fell shattered into oblivion. No ship returned. Despair gripped the land once more, and Lama, stricken by failure, turned to the darker council. "Let the volcanoes awaken," he commanded at last. "Let the weapons of terror be forged. If heaven denies us, the deep shall obey." Skyborne chariots were armed with thunder. From their bellies they loosed blazing missiles that screamed through the air and struck the sleeping mountains. The ground split open, and for a moment the world seemed to breathe again. Brilliance burst forth in clouds of fire. The valleys shook. The towers of Agade trembled as if the planet itself roared in agony. But when the thunder faded, only ruin remained. The volcanoes did not stir. The air grew harsher, the winds more cruel. Rains abandoned the land. The breach yawned wider, and Nibiru's once verdant skin began to turn ashen and gray. The people's songs fell silent, their faith in the throne dissolved. Then rose Alalu, prince of fierce cunning and hidden wisdom. In the great square of a god, he watched the despairing faces of the people and whispered to himself, "The throne weakens and the crown trembles. If Lama cannot heal Nibiru, another must rise who can." When Lama fell, betrayed by failure and scorn, Alalu ascended to rule. Yet peace did not follow, for though he bore the scepter, another stood ever before him, Anu, strongest and wisest of the princes, a son of royal blood whose loyalty was shadowed by ambition. In the halls of the palace, Alalu sat enthroned, cloaked in gold. Anu, in the courtly rituals, would bow before him, set the cup in his hand, and serve him wine. Yet their eyes never met without sparks of hidden challenge. For 9 shars, 9 mighty circuits of Nibiru around the sun, Alalu reigned. The planet limped through the heavens, its wounds unhealed, its people weary. Then in the 9th shar, the murmur of rebellion grew to a roar, and Anu rose against his king. "Let it be settled as in the days of our forefathers," declared Anu before the assembled host. "No counsel, no weapon, no deceit, but strength against strength. Let us grapple man to man. Let the victor be king." The people cried out in wonder, for such a challenge had not been seen in generations. In the public square they met, Alalu and Anu, stripped of robes and ornaments, their bodies gleaming beneath Nibiru's red sun. They circled one another like lions before the strike. The air trembled with the tension of destiny. Alalu lunged first, swift and fierce, but Anu caught him in his arms. They wrestled upon the stone, their roars echoing through the city. Doorposts quivered, walls shook, and dust fell from the golden arches as the kings of Nibiru battled for dominion. At last, Alalu's strength waned. His knee bent, his body fell to the ground. The crowd erupted with a single cry, "Anu, King Eternal!" Anu was lifted upon the shoulders of his followers and carried to the palace amid thunderous praise. But Alalu, defeated and humiliated, slipped away beneath the cover of night. He fled through the winding corridors, his heart burning with fury and dread. "They will cast me aside like Lama," he muttered. "I will not die in disgrace. I shall find my destiny among the stars." Alone and unseen, he reached the place of the celestial chariots, the grand hangars carved into the mountain's heart. The air shimmered with the dormant power of ancient craft, silent sentinels awaiting command. He chose one, a great vessel of gleaming bronze. Its hull bore the marks of the elder forges, its engines the firestones of legend. Into it he climbed, sealing the hatch behind him. Within the command chamber he placed his hands upon the crystal spheres. "Show me the way," he whispered, and the chamber bloomed with bluish light. The instruments came alive. The runes of guidance flared like living stars. He stirred the firestones, and the hum rose like a song of creation. The great cracker, the heart of propulsion, flared with crimson flame. The walls vibrated with energy, and Alalu's face, lit by the glow, was both fierce and sorrowful. "Farewell, Nibiru," he said. "You have cast me out, but I shall find a new world. There lies a secret known only to me, a truth from the beginning. I shall go where life may yet be born anew." And so, without witness or farewell, Alalu's chariot rose from the dark plains of Nibiru. The ground fell away, the clouds parted, and the red planet diminished behind him. Through the storm of the hammered bracelet he passed, his vessel shuddering but unbroken. Beyond the ring of ruin lay the silent expanse of the inner heavens, and there, shining in hues of blue and white, a world called to him. "Earth," he murmured, "the snow-hued planet. My destiny awaits." And with that, Alalu set his course toward the young and waiting earth, bearing with him the last hope of Nibiru and the beginning of a new chapter in the epic of the gods. Through the wide gulfs of heaven, where silence reigned and the black seas of the void shimmered with distant lights, the chariot of Alalu sped like a living flame. Its hull gleamed with the glow of Nibiru's forges, its engines a hymn to forgotten mastery. Alone in that immensity, the exiled king rode between stars, his destiny a knife edge between ruin and godhood. To snow-hued earth he set his course, guided by a secret older than kingship itself, a secret born in the beginning when the Anunnaki first kindled the skies. His path was forbidden, his purpose treason. None before him had crossed the hammered bracelet, the boundless belt of ruinous stones that guarded the inner realm of the sun like the teeth of a dragon. None had dared it, none had lived to tell of trying. But Alalu's heart was bound by neither fear nor mercy. The fate of Nibiru burned behind his eyes like a dying star. "To save my world," he murmured into the stillness, I shall risk even the wrath of heaven. His voice was devoured by the void, but his words lived in the pulse of his engines. From the heights he looked back once more. Nibiru lay behind him, a vast crimson sphere adrift in the endless dark, its fiery storms casting glints across the heavens. It gleamed like a wounded jewel, encircled by its failing breath, its sky torn and thinning. The breach in its protective veil was visible even now, a gash in the glow, black and growing. He watched it shrink as his chariot flew, first a burning moon, then a marble, then a memory swallowed by the void. A shadow passed through his soul. For the first time since his rebellion, doubt whispered, "What if I have abandoned my world to die?" But ambition, older and harder, answered within him, "Then I shall make a new world mine." The darkness deepened, stars blinked from every corner of infinity. Then, like the glimmer of a friendly torch in endless night, a light approached, a small wanderer tracing its tilted path. "Little Gaga," Alalu breathed, all mixing with relief. "The one who shows the way." The celestial herald shimmered before him, pale and swift, moving before and behind with strange grace. Once counselor to the elder gods, it now marked the route to the sun's court. To see it was to be greeted by destiny itself. "By the gods, I am welcomed!" Alalu cried, his voice trembling with fierce exultation. He followed Gaga's path, his chariot echoing its winding gait through the black ocean of the void. Soon the next wonder loomed from the deep, a world of blue and brightness. "Antu," he whispered, naming her as Enshar once did. The planet's hue was that of purest water, its glow serene and cold. She turned in stately calm, the first mistress of the upper waters. Beyond her shone her consort, and radiant in green and azure splendor. His might was equal, his form vast, surrounded by glittering hosts of satellites that clung to him like courtiers to a throne. Their light danced upon Alalu's eyes, filling him with reverence. He lingered a moment, entranced, then saluted them both with raised hand. "Farewell, firstborn of the heavens. The exile of Nibiru bows before your glory." The chariot roared on, tracing the curving road of Gaga until it bent toward Anshar, the foremost prince. Rings of fire and brilliance encircled that mighty world, calling to Alalu with siren beauty. His vessel trembled under their enchantment. "Steady," he growled, his hands tightening on the controls. "Do not let the majesty unmake you." But even as he spoke, another presence rose from the darkness, a monstrous shadow devouring light. A shudder passed through the stars. "Kishar," Alalu whispered, his voice small in the growing roar. Foremost of the firm planets, it came as a storm of storms, a sphere vast beyond reason, its face veiled in tempests the size of worlds. Lightning, like divine spears, split its clouds, and 1,000 wandering moons circled its wrath. One moment it was a world, the next a living god of chaos. Then Kishar passed before the sun, casting darkness over all creation. A wave of terror struck Alalu. His heart quailed. "An evil omen," he muttered. "The heavens themselves conspire against me." The pull of Kishar's gravity seized his ship, dragging it toward destruction. His direction faltered, his chariot shuddered like a hunted beast. Sparks flared, alarms sang like tortured spirits. He fought the controls, calling on every secret art of Nibiru's engineers. "I am not undone! I am Alalu, chosen by destiny!" Then, as suddenly as it began, the shadow lifted. Kishar drifted on its vast circuit, releasing him. The light of the sun broke free again, flooding the heavens. The star of the beginning, the one who birthed all, shone before him in full splendor. But peace did not follow. Ahead loomed the peril none had dared, the hammer bracelet, the endless band of shattered worlds, cast from the forge of creation itself. He could see it now, glinting like a storm of blades around the sun. Stones of ruin, boulders vast as mountains, shards of ancient planets, millions upon millions drifting and colliding, bound by the law of their ruin. The chariot trembled as its sensors screamed warnings. The guardians of the forbidden realm, Alalu murmured, all mixing with defiance. So it begins. He called to his vessel, awakening the firestones, and their light flared with violent radiance. The chariot surged forward like a hawk diving into the heart of the storm. The first wave of boulders struck, 1,000 titanic fragments rushing to crush him. He fired the chariot's death-dealing missiles. One after another, their trails of light tore through the darkness, detonating in soundless flame. "Back, children of ruin!" he roared. "Alalu will not be denied!" The hammered bracelet howled around him, boulders turning upon each other in the chaos. For a moment they seemed alive, ancient souls bound in eternal conflict, forever denying passage to the living. Yet even the stones seemed to hesitate before his fury. Through fire and shards a path began to open, a narrow corridor of light amid destruction. And there, in the sudden stillness of the deep, Alalu's chariot emerged. Behind him the hammered bracelet closed again like a gate of death. Before him the heavens widened, calm and infinite. He exhaled, chest heaving. By Enki's blood and Anu's crown, he whispered, "I am not defeated. My mission is not ended." In that moment, Alalu's name was spoken by no tongue, but echoed in the currents of eternity. For the first time in the ages of the Anunnaki, one had crossed the forbidden boundary. And beyond the storm of ruin lay the silent cradle of blue and white, Earth, awaiting its first king from the stars. Through the black corridors of space, Alalu's chariot glided, its engines sighing like the breath of creation, its hull scarred by the fire of 1,000 stones. Behind him lay the wrathful band of the hammered bracelet, behind that Nibiru, a fading ember in the sea of stars. Before him now the sun's furnace burned with unyielding brilliance, a blazing monarch enthroned in radiance. The fiery orb loomed immense, its light cascading through the void like banners of molten gold. To Alalu it was both glory and warning. The divine heart of the solar domain, giver of life, devourer of the reckless. Yet from its glow a planet rode forth, red-brown and vast, coursing in solemn silence upon its destined path. The sixth, Alalu murmured, his gaze fixed on its sphere. Forefather Kishar's younger kin. The planet's ruddy form gleamed with hidden fire, its storms twisting like wounded serpents, but its course carried it swiftly away, receding into the sun's haze until it was but a dying spark. Then his eyes fell upon a vision so new, so filled with mystery, that even the heart of a king faltered. There, rising in the black gulf like a gem of ice and flame, was a smaller world, radiant in white and blue. "Snow-hued earth," he whispered, and his voice trembled. The seventh of the celestial gods. Around it shimmered a halo of swirling clouds, a veil half-hiding oceans and lands below. Compared to mighty Nibiru, it was a fragile thing, its pull weak, its breath thin. Yet it called to him with the song of destiny. "The planet of my deliverance," he said. "The cradle of my glory." His hands moved across the controls, the chariot's arresting wings spreading like those of a descending eagle. The craft tilted, entering orbit around the living sphere. Below, the world unrolled in splendor, vast plains of brown and green, immense waters glimmering like liquid sapphire, and at the poles, the silent crowns of snow. He sent forth the beam that penetrates. The crystal lens deep within the chariot flared to life, its invisible rays descending through clouds and stone, probing the planet's heart. Numbers and symbols danced before his eyes. The readings rose, brightened and steadied into the sign he longed for. "By the Creator of all!" he shouted, his voice breaking with triumph. "I have attained it! Gold! Much gold! Beneath the dark-hued lands and the waters too. The metal that can heal Nibiru's wound, that can mend the torn heavens." He rose from his seat, trembling, his hands lifted toward the gleaming sphere that filled his view. Tears shone on his cheeks, tears not of sorrow, but of victory. The curse of exile had turned to a crown, yet joy gave way to uncertainty. The world beneath him was not gentle. He saw mountains rise like jagged teeth, seas vast and hungry, clouds churning as though alive. "Where shall I descend?" he whispered. "On land, and be crushed to death, upon the waters and sink into oblivion?" He hovered there, between terror and triumph. The chariot thrummed around him, alive with heat and warning light. His heart thundered in rhythm with its engines. Then Alalu did what no king had ever done. He loosed his hold on all command. "To fate," he said softly, "I entrust my life." The chariot answered with a scream of metal as it fell into the grip of Earth's invisible hand. Gravity seized it, dragging it down with monstrous force. The hull glowed red, then white, the air outside igniting into flame. The wings flared like twin suns. Fire coiled along the vessel's sides as the sky itself seemed to roar in rage. In the eagle's seat, Alalu gritted his teeth, eyes fixed on the swirling horizon. "Hold, my steed," he muttered through clenched lips. "We ride the storm to glory." The chariot shook with the violence of descent. Instruments shattered, the beams flickered, and a thunderous crash shook heaven and sea alike. Then came silence. When Alalu's senses returned, he lay still, breath ragged. Smoke filled the air, and a low hiss sounded through the vessel's wounded hull. For a long while he dared not move, certain that death had claimed him. Then a faint shimmer of blue light reached his vision, the color of living sky. He opened his eyes fully and knew he was alive. Outside the cracked window of his chariot lay the soil of an unknown world, and the golden waters of its seas shimmered in the distance. The air, though strange, was sweet. Alalu pressed his palm against the cold metal beside him, whispering as if to a living being, "I have come through the furnace. I stand upon the planet of gold." He rose unsteadily to his feet, laughter breaking through his exhaustion. "By courage I crossed the forbidden heavens," he said, voice rising to a shout. "By destiny I have reached the world that shall save Nibiru." He stepped toward the hatch, ready to behold the face of Earth, the first Anunnaki to set foot upon its soil. In the deep silence before all time, when neither light nor darkness had yet chosen their dominion, when no god had lifted voice nor mountain broken the stillness, there was only Apsu, the Ancient One. His being was soundless motion, his breath the first whisper upon the endless waters. From his unseen depths came the thought of creation, a stirring within the void, and by his will the dark waters moved. No land yet rose, no star yet burned. The heavens and the earth lay folded within his unseen heart. Then Apsu cast a spell upon the waters, a weaving of divine intent, and from his slumbering deep a ripple spread. Out of that ripple came Tiamat, the radiant mother, beauty clad in vapor, her body of the waters themselves. Her eyes shone with azure fire, her voice like the sigh of waves beneath moons yet unborn. Apsu beheld her and was filled with wonder. "Come," he said to her, "be the joy of my solitude. Let the currents of the void be mingled in our union, and from us let life begin." She consented, and the two became one, sky and sea entwined, silence joined to motion. Their mingled essence glowed through the depths, and from that light a new form arose, Mumu, born of the mingling winds, bright and eager, a child of motion and thought. As a gift to Tiamat, Apsu drew from the heart of his own depths a glittering wonder, the first gold shining with a light that never faded. "This," he said, placing it in her hand, "is the treasure of life everlasting. In its gleam shall memory and power endure." Then the waters of above and below were stirred anew, and from their joining came forth the first divine children, Lamu and Lahamu, twin forms of strength and grace. Their hair was the foam of the seas, their eyes the glow of the dawn. To them was given the first abode, the low and mist-veiled place beneath the heavens. Yet time ripened their seed again, and from the upper waters two more shone forth, Anshar and Kishar, vast and radiant, male and female, their embrace forming the firmament's first arch. From them came An, bright and far-seeing, heir to the celestial domain. To An was given Antu, fair and solemn, to be his consort, her dwelling at the rim of the upper waters where the stars would one day burn. Thus were the first three pairs established, the family of Apsu and Tiamat, with Mumu their messenger, but the heavens had not yet taken shape. The circling paths were unmarked, the destinies unmeasured. The gods wandered in confusion, their courses erratic, their voices clashing like storms. Their disarray wearied Apsu, whose peace they disturbed. Their ways are loathsome, he said to Tiamat. There is no rest in the deep because of their chaos, but Tiamat, the great mother, was wroth at their noise. Let them be silenced, she cried. I shall unleash against them a host such as the heavens have never seen. From her depths she summoned monstrous forms, 11 terrible offspring born of her wrath and shaped from the dark waters. Among them she raised Kingu, the firstborn, fierce and proud. Upon his breast she fastened a tablet of destiny, marking him as commander of her legions. To battle go, she said, by this tablet your path shall be yours alone. Take vengeance upon the gods who have dishonored their mother. Terror spread among the celestial host. None dared stand against her, for her wrath shook the very fabric of the heavens. Then in the heart of the deep a new god was engendered, a being unlike any before him. Born in the chamber of fates, where destinies are woven, he was fashioned by a hidden hand, the son of his own son, a traveler of the dark seas. The spark of the seed of life glowed within him, a gift from his mysterious creator. He rose from the deep like a flame in darkness, seeking a new path, a new dominion. His coming was first seen by Antu, who beheld him through the silver mist. Come, she called, her voice ringing through the stars unborn. Be my son! Let me be your mother and grant you a name among the eternal. She spread her veil of welcome, and the new god entered her embrace. Her blessing filled him with pride and might. His form expanded, his limbs multiplied. Fourfold were his powers, and his head gleamed with the fire of sovereignty. Then his course turned toward An, whose face he revealed for the first time. My son! Cried An, wonder in his voice. My son, my avenger, my heir, to leadership you are born. A host shall serve at your side, and your path shall cross all paths. You shall be called Nibiru, the crossing, for through your circuit shall destinies be bound. At An's command 4 spirits of wind gathered, south, north, east, and west, to serve the new prince. Anshar, hearing of this, summoned Gaga, his counselor, and sent him forth with a charge. Go to An, he said, and tell him what troubles the heavens. Tiamat rages. Her brood rises in rebellion. Kingu holds the tablet of destiny unjustly. None among us can stand before her fury. Let Nibiru be our avenger. Let him bring peace to the firmament. Gaga bore the message, bowing before An and repeating his lord's words, and turned to Nibiru and spoke solemnly. Behold, the mother who bore us has turned against her children. 11 fierce gods march by her side, led by Kingu. None dare oppose her. Will you, O Nibiru, stand forth? Nibiru listened, his eyes deep as molten gold. The tale of Tiamat stirred his spirit, the challenge, the promise of dominion. If indeed I am to vanquish Tiamat, he said, then let the assembly of gods decree my destiny supreme. Let my command be unchallenged, my word be law, and I shall deliver you from destruction. His demand struck the heavens with astonishment. Lamu and Lahamu cried aloud, This word is strange, its meaning we cannot grasp. But the gods who decreed fate conferred among themselves, and in their wisdom they saw the necessity. Let Nibiru be our avenger, they proclaimed. To him shall be given command without equal. From this day forth his word shall not be transgressed. They forged for him a princely path toward Tiamat's realm, and armed him with celestial weapons. Anshar summoned 3 winds, the evil wind, the whirlwind, the matchless wind, and bound them to Nibiru's will. Kishar filled his being with fire, and into his hands was given a net of radiant flame, woven to ensnare the great mother herself. Thus armed and anointed, Nibiru, the lord of the crossing, set his face toward the raging deep, and Tiamat, the stars trembled in their courses, for the moment of reckoning had come. In the deep vault of eternity, where silence lay like an ocean before sound was born, a new cry tore through the heavens, a cry of creation and of war. This was the age of the celestial battle, when destinies were forged in fire and the bones of worlds became the foundation of life. It was the age of Nibiru, the Avenger, the Crossing, who came forth to face the raging Tiamat, mother of chaos and womb of the firstborn gods. The Lord set forth upon his fated course, his chariot blazing across the dark waters of the void. Around him swirled the winds of power, 7 tempests, his loyal host. Each one carried the force of mountains collapsing, of oceans torn from their basins. His armor shimmered with the light of suns unborn. The pulsar upon his breast glowed like molten gold. The emitter cast blue fires that danced upon the helm that crowned his head. On his right he placed the smiter, a weapon that tore through the fabric of space itself, and on his left the repeller, whose force could hurl mountains into the deep. Toward Tiamat he advanced, chanting the words of power that bent the stars to his will. The heavens trembled, his voice rolled like thunder through the chambers of the deep. I am Nibiru, son of the sun, bearer of the seed of life, born for this hour. Let the false destinies be undone. Let the chaos be stilled. Before him the monstrous Tiamat writhed in fury, her vast body spanning the heavens. Her face was like a storm front of boiling waters. Her eyes were whirlpools of fire. Around her swarmed her host, the 11 of her brood, shaped of storm and poison, of darkness and flame. At their head stood Kingu, her firstborn and consort, bearing upon his breast the forbidden tablet of destinies that she had stolen from the elder gods. When Nibiru beheld Kingu, his vision wavered, for the light of deceit shimmered from him like a mirage. His chariot swayed, his path faltered. The creatures of Tiamat encircled him, their roars shaking the firmament. The sea of the deep boiled with their rage. Then Tiamat gave a shudder from the roots of her being, and the void itself quaked. A sound like the breaking of worlds issued from her. "Child of light," she cried, her voice reverberating through eternity, "you dare to rise against the womb that bore your fathers? You would slay the mother of all?" She raised her power, casting a spell woven of her waters, ancient and dark, and the essence of death enfolded Nibiru. The spell coiled around him like a serpent, whispering lies of surrender. But Nibiru stood unshaken. "Your reign of chaos ends, O mother of monsters," he answered. "The seed of life shall triumph over the waters of death." Then the heavens split as the two met face to face. A roar of such magnitude burst forth that even the elder gods fled from the sight. The 7 winds surged before Nibiru like soldiers in formation. He cast forth his net of storms, and his cords of lightning wrapped around the body of Tiamat. She screamed, the sound echoing through the abyss. From behind Nibiru loosed the evil wind. It raced forward like a spear of pure force, hurling itself into her open mouth. She tried to close her jaws, but the wind tore into her throat, plunging down into her innards. Her belly swelled, her veins split, her body filled with the howling of imprisoned storms. Then Nibiru drew forth the arrow of the gods, a shaft of divine lightning, and hurled it into her gaping wound. The heavens were blinded by its brilliance. It pierced her heart and split her womb, and all her waters rushed forth in agony. The mother of chaos fell silent, her vast form convulsed, then drifted lifeless in the abyss. Around her, her brood trembled in terror. Bound by the net of the Avenger, they could not flee. Kingu too was captured. The light of his false glory dimmed as Nibiru tore the tablet of destinies from his breast and sealed it with his own mark. "Your dominion is broken," he said, binding the traitor beside his fallen mistress. "Your power shall serve as warning to all who defy the order of the heavens." Then Nibiru turned to the gods who had awaited the outcome in silence. He raised his voice so that the stars themselves might hear. "The battle is ended. Chaos is subdued. The crossing is secured. He made a circuit of the heavens, passing by Apsu, by Kishar and Anshar, bearing the news of victory. The gods rejoiced, and Gaga, swift herald of the deep, went forth proclaiming his triumph. But Nibiru's heart was not at rest. He returned to the scene of the great slaughter to gaze upon the ruined body of Tiamat. He beheld her vastness, her golden veins glittering in Apsu's light, her waters spilling endlessly into the void. And in that stillness the thought came to him, creation could yet be born from destruction. He split her body in two, cleaving her from chest to tail. One half he lifted and by command of the north wind sent spinning into the distant void to wander the heavens with the bound Kingu as its companion. The other half he anchored near the sun, shaping from her remnants a memorial of the battle, a shining band of fragments, the hammered bracelet, to divide the waters of above from the waters of below. Nibiru's work did not end there. From the womb of Tiamat's lower half he drew forth her fertile waters and her dust of gold. Let new life come forth, he declared. Let this remnant of the slain mother rise as a new world, and thus beneath Apsu's warming light the earth was formed, a daughter of chaos redeemed by order. Let her be called Ki, said Nibiru, the firm land. Apsu's rays bathed the broken sphere. Let her join my family, he said. By her turning shall there be day and night. My light shall heal her wounds. Kingu, stripped of his power, was cast forth beside her, doomed to shine only by reflected light. You shall be a creature of the night, Nibiru decreed, her companion and her servant forever. Let your pale glow be her comfort in the darkness. And so it was that earth and moon took their stations, born of ruin and rebirth. The gods rejoiced, and Nibiru, crowned with radiance, traversed the heavens to establish the circuits of the celestial kin. He placed each in its appointed path, decreeing that none should transgress nor fall short. Then Apsu spoke, his voice ringing like the harmony of creation. Let Nibiru's sovereignty be surpassing. He shall hold the crossing of heaven and earth. His name shall be the crossing, the shepherd of the gods. The hosts of heaven bowed before him. The winds carried his name across eternity. And thus was it written, Nibiru's circuit shall endure. Ashar unending, his path eternal, his reign the bridge between the realms of light and shadow. The battle was ended. But from the ashes of chaos, the age of order had begun. The seed of life had been sown, and earth, daughter of Tiamat, awaited her awakening. The assembly hall of Nibiru was vast, its vaulted ceilings gleaming with the reflections of distant suns. Shadows of the princes and sages flickered against walls carved of celestial stone, each figure a vessel of concern, authority, and inherited pride. The murmurs of the council rippled through the chamber, a river of unease. It was then that a voice rose above the chorus, clear, firm, carrying both caution and weight. Of conditions Alalu cannot speak. Calamities were his handiwork. By single combat in wrestling, he the throne forfeited. If Tiamat's gold he indeed had found, proof of that is needed. Is it for protecting our atmosphere sufficient? How through the hammered bracelet to Nibiru can it be brought? It was Enlil, son of Anu, lord of the command, a figure of measured wisdom and sharp insight. His words hung in the chamber, each syllable stirring the minds of those who had assembled. Many others joined with questions, each inquiry adding to the tension that coiled like a storm about the room. Alalu listened, his face a mask of solemn contemplation. The weight of his deeds pressed upon him, yet he did not flinch. Slowly he spoke, the authority of a king commanding the silence of the assembly. Now that proof has been delivered, declare me king, bow to my command. A murmur of shock swept the hall. The sages whispered among themselves, aghast at Alalu's audacity. They recalled the havoc wrought by his weapons of terror, the paths through the hammered bracelet blasted by fire and fury, the circuits of Nibiru scarred by calamity. The balance of kingship was a grave matter, not to be swayed by mere words. Among the princes another figure rose, calm and deliberate. Ea, he whose home is water, firstborn of Anu, and by marriage Alalu's son-in-law through Damkina, stepped forward. His presence radiated authority tempered by reason. "My father by birth is Anu the king," Ea declared, his voice steady. "Alalu by marriage my father is. To bring the two clans into unison was my espousal's intention. Let me be the one in this conflict unity to bring. Let me Anu's emissary to Alalu be. Let me be the one Alalu's discoveries to uphold. Let me in a chariot to earth journey, a path through the bracelet with water, not fire, I shall fashion. On earth, from the waters, let me the precious gold obtain. To Nibiru back it will be sent. Let Alalu be king on earth, a verdict of the sages awaiting. If Nibiru it will save, let there be a second wrestling. Who shall Nibiru rule, let it determine." A hush fell over the assembly. Every counselor, every prince, every sage turned their gaze to the young god, their minds grappling with the ingenuity of his plan. The solution was as elegant as it was daring. Water to navigate the bracelet, gold to test the salvation of Nibiru, a challenge to kingship yet again. "Let it so be!" Anu's voice thundered, reverberating through the vaulted hall. "Let Ea journey, let the gold be tested. Alalu a second time I shall then wrestle. Let the winner be on Nibiru king." Alalu's eyes narrowed in acknowledgement. The command was agreed, the path was set. "Let Ea, my son by marriage, to earth come. Let gold from the waters be obtained. Let it for salvation on Nibiru be tested. Let a second wrestling kingship by me or Anu settle." Enlil rose, but the king's decree was final. Objections faded in the authority of Anu. Ea departed for the place of the chariots, consulting with commanders and sages, absorbing every detail of Alalu's transmissions. He studied the tester, removed its crystal innards, examined the sampler, and prepared the speaker to convey the findings. Each step was precise, each precaution meticulous. He fashioned a tablet of destinies for the mission, calculated the forces needed, and plotted the celestial circuit of Nibiru through which he must pass. 50 heroes were appointed to accompany him, each clad in fish suits, helmets shaped like eagles' heads glinting in the chamber's light. The time of departure came. Multitudes gathered, their voices rising in chants and blessings, a sea of celestial citizens filling the place of the chariots. Ea knelt before his father, Anu, receiving the king's blessing. "My son, the firstborn, a far journey you have undertaken for us all to be endangered. Let your success calamity from Nibiru banish. Go and in safety come back." Ninul, Ea's mother, embraced him with tenderness. "Why, after by Anu as a son to me you were given, did he with a restless heart you endow? Go and come back, the hazardous road traverse safely." Damkina, his spouse, stood silently, letting Ea hold her close, the unspoken understanding passing between them, love and duty intertwined, both heavy with the risk of the journey ahead. Enlil, the half-brother, grasped Ea's arm in a firm grip. "Be blessed, be successful," he whispered. With a heart steady yet racing with anticipation, Ea entered the celestial chariot. Its wings unfolded like the spread of a great bird, the engines of the craft humming with contained power. He gave the command, and the chariot soared, piercing the heavens, leaving the assembly below as it vanished into the vast void. Behind him, the multitudes watched, the light of Nibiru's twin suns glinting off the hull of the chariot, as Ea, he whose home is water, took the first step on a path that would decide the fate of worlds, the salvation of Nibiru, and the rightful course of kingship among the Anunnaki. In the age before memory, when Nibiru's circuit was still a mystery to the children of its soil, a voyage unlike any other was begun. The journey to the seventh planet, to the world that shone white and blue beneath the sun's fire. Thus began the tale of Ea, of Anzu, the celestial pilot, and of the first descent of the gods into the waters of earth, from which the legend of the fish god was born. Ea entered the chariot with a heart weighted by destiny. He paused at its shining threshold, feeling the pulse of its life force beneath his palm, as though the craft itself breathed. Around him, the gathered heroes stood in solemn ranks, their eyes fixed on him with reverence. The time had come to soar up, he commanded, and his voice, steady yet edged with awe, carried through the metal heart of the vessel. Anzu took his place in the commander's seat. He who knows the heavens, his name proclaimed, and none disputed its truth. He was born of royal seed, a prince among the Anunnaki, chosen by skill and knowledge rather than lineage alone. The chariot trembled as his hands gripped the controls. It stirred like a beast awakened, then rose from the cradle of Nibiru with a roar that silenced the plains below. They ascended into the black vastness, leaving behind the burning skies of their home. The crimson glow of Nibiru dimmed to a dying ember, and before them the cold brilliance of the sun stretched across the void. "Set our course for the distant light," Ea said, his gaze locked upon that golden blaze. The journey began. 10 leagues, then 100, then 1,000 did the celestial chariot traverse. The heavens unfolded like a scroll before them. First came little Gaga, the restless herald of the outer reaches, darting before them in playful orbit. Its presence greeted them like a messenger of the olden ways. "A welcome to the heroes," Ea murmured, watching its shimmer pass. Beyond it lay blue-hued Antu, beautiful and mysterious, her veils of light glistening. "Let us examine her waters," Anzu said, his eyes drawn to her allure. But Ea, ever cautious, lifted his hand. "It is a planet of no return," he warned. "The fate of those who descend to her is silence. Stay our course." Obediently, Anzu pressed on. The third world awaited, and vast and majestic, girdled by swirling moons like a crown of attendants. The tester's beam swept across its expanse, revealing waters deep and plentiful. "If need arises, it shall serve," Ea noted. Yet he did not permit delay. Their destination was beyond. Soon the chariot entered the domain of Anshar, the heaven's foremost prince. His colored rings shimmered with divine menace. The pull of his net ensnared the vessel, lightning danced upon the chariot's skin. Yet Anzu, deft and fearless, guided their craft between the coils of that mighty lord. They passed unharmed, and the great rings faded behind them like the closing of an eye. Next came Kishar, vast and fierce, her power second only to the sun's. Her gravity tugged at the chariot like the hand of a jealous god. Bolts of light erupted from her surface, flung upward in fury at the intruders. The heroes tightened their holds as the craft shuddered. But Anzu's mastery did not fail. He altered their course with precision, skimming them through the storm until Kishar's fury waned. Then before them loomed the hammered bracelet, the field of broken worlds, the scar of Tiamat's ancient sundering. Ea's expression hardened. "Prepare the water thruster," he ordered. "Through water, not fire, shall our way be made." At his command, the hero set the mechanism whirring. Jets of celestial water burst forth, spinning like torrents of blue flame. The chariot surged into the chaos. Stones vast as mountains turned in their path, slung like slingshots by the hands of ancient vengeance. "Now!" cried Ea, and the water thruster thundered. Each stream met the oncoming boulders, striking with the force of 1,000 spears. The stones spun aside, hissing into the dark. One by one they turned their faces, as if bowing to the will of the Anunnaki. But for every boulder cast away, another rose in its place, and the void itself seemed alive with wrath. Again and again Ea gave the order, and again the water struck, carving a path through the fragments of Tiamat's corpse. At last the torrent ceased. Silence fell. The stars shone again unmarred. "The path is clear," a hero shouted, his voice trembling with relief. Laughter and joy filled the cabin, and before them the sun unveiled its blazing crown. Yet as the rejoicing swelled, the alarm tone cut through the air. Anzu turned, his face grave. "For this path to be fashioned," he said, We have consumed too much of the waters. The reserves to feed the fiery stones are not sufficient for the journey's end." Ea's gaze turned forward. In the distance shimmered the sixth planet, Lamu, reflecting the sun's light like a mirror of bronze. "There is water on Lamu," Ea said. "Can you bring the chariot down upon it?" Anzu's eyes gleamed. "I can," he replied. With grace he guided the craft toward the red-hued world. Around it they circled, reading its breath, feeling the pulse of its net. "Its pull is gentle," Anzu said. "We shall not be ensnared." Below them stretched a world of beauty, caps white as snow, plains tinted with rust and flame, and lakes like scattered gems. "A sight to behold," murmured Ea. "Bring us down near the shining waters." Anzu lowered the chariot, slowing its descent until it kissed the edge of a great lake. The craft rested softly upon the soil of Lamu. Ea and Anzu donned their eagles' helmets, the visors glinting like the eyes of divine birds. Together they stepped forth, their boots sinking into alien dust. They moved to the lake's edge, where the heroes extended that which water sucks, drawing the planet's bounty into the chariot's bowels. The waters flowed upward in glimmering streams. Ea knelt beside the shore, filling a vial and raising it to the light. "Good for drinking," he said, "but the air, too thin for breath." Anzu nodded, recording each finding into the chariot's annals. "Let it be written," Ea said, "that we replenished our strength from Lamu's gift. Once the tanks brimmed full, they rose again into the stars. Lamu's red disk fell away beneath them, left with the whisper of departing gods. Beyond it waited their fate, the seventh planet, the one called Earth. Ahead, the sun's light refracted upon its oceans. Its companion, the moon, circled like a sentinel scarred by war. The chariot must be slowed, Anzu warned. If not, the fires of its air will consume us. Then circle the moon, Ea replied. Let it humble our speed. Around the broken satellite they flew, and the sight of it stirred awe in their hearts. Behold the wound of the celestial battle, Ea whispered. Here Tiamat was vanquished, and the earth was born. After the final turn, Anzu set their course once more. The chariot descended toward the blue and white sphere. Twice they circled the globe, seeking the beacon of Alalu. Below them, continents gleamed. Mountains rose like sleeping titans, and oceans shimmered beneath the sun. At last, where an ocean met the lands of 4 rivers, the signal pulsed, a rhythmic call from the one who had come before. There, Anzu said. But the marshes are vast, the chariot too heavy for such ground, the earth's pull is too great, Anzu warned again. If we land upon dry land, we shall be crushed. Then to the waters, Ea commanded, splash down upon the sea. Obedient, Anzu brought the vessel low, circling one last time before lowering the chariot's lungs to fill with air. The craft trembled, then plunged. It struck the ocean's surface with a sound like thunder, sank briefly beneath the waves, and steady, floating, as a silver island upon the waters. From the speaker came a voice, radiant and exultant. To earth be welcomed, Alalu cried. His signal shone clear, guiding them toward the place of his waiting. They moved across the narrowing sea, the chariot gliding like a divine ship. On either side rose the guardians of the new world, brown hills to the left, mountains to the right, their crowns lost in clouds. Ahead the land swelled and shimmered, drenched by the floods of mingled rivers. And so the first gods came upon the face of earth, born not by fire but by the power of the waters, an arrival that would echo through ages, retold by men as the coming of the fish god from the sea. The red light of the dying sun spilled across the alien horizon, painting the metallic hull of Alalu's chariot in a bronze that shimmered like blood. From its open belly, the gods of Nibiru labored, lifting, fitting, and fastening pieces that gleamed with celestial purpose. Piece by piece, the sky chamber was born, a vessel within a vessel, wrought from the bones of a world not their own. Ea, son of Anu, moved among them with a quiet, commanding grace. His long hands traced the curve of each joint and seam, testing their strength as if the metal itself might whisper secrets to him. Abgal, his trusted companion, the one who knew the ways of the sky, stood beside him, waiting for the signal. When he had nodded, Abgal entered the sky chamber, taking the helm with reverence, and together they rose. The earth unfolded beneath them like an ancient scroll. Mountains thrust their jagged crowns toward the heavens, and below them green steppes rolled into distant horizons. Great rivers carved the land like veins of a sleeping titan, reflecting sunlight in molten flashes. Ea's voice was low as they soared. "Whence does the gold come, Alalu? Where upon Tiamat's corpse are her golden veins?" But Alalu, watching from below, had no answer certain enough to still the yearning in his heart. So daily Ea and Abgal ascended. From the chamber's crystal eye, beams of light pierced through mountains and seas, probing the world's hidden anatomy. The beam that scans, they called it, a relic from Nibiru's ancient sciences, and in its shimmering lattice, Ea searched for salvation. On Nibiru, impatience turned to desperation. The voices of the Anunnaki Council rose like storm winds. "Can gold protection provide?" they cried. "Assemble the gold! Deliver it on Nibiru's nearing!" The command came down from Anu, King of Kings. "Repair Alalu's chariot. Make it fit for the return. By the Shah's completion, the gold must be brought." Ea bowed to the will of his father, but in the silence of the earth's night, another resolve grew within him. As the stars wheeled above, he and Abgal landed the sky chamber beside Alalu's chariot. No heralds watched, no eyes of heaven bore witness. In darkness they entered the chariot, its metal cold and breathing with old power. Ea's hand traced the symbols that guarded the weapons of terror, the 7 forbidden engines of annihilation. They hummed faintly in their rests, eager as serpents awaiting command. "Come," Ea whispered. Together they bore the weapons out, 7 in number, their casings black as the void between stars. They hid them within the sky chamber, sealing them from sight. By dawn, the secret was buried deep within a cavern, Earth's first tomb of divine fire. When the sun rose again, Ea returned to the chariot and summoned Anzu, master of engines, to prepare it for the voyage home. "Make it fit for the passage," Ea ordered. "Let it be ready before the Shar completes its circle." Anzu, whose hands could coax life from cold metal, obeyed. He polished the thrusters until they gleamed, recalibrated the tablets of flight, and fed fire into the chariot's heart. But soon his voice thundered through the camp. "The weapons of terror!" he cried. "They are gone!" Ea faced him calmly. "They are hidden," he said. "Without them," Anzu protested, "no passage through the hammer bracelet is safe. Without the thrusters of water and the 7 powers, the chariot cannot endure." Ea's gaze hardened. "Forsworn is their use. Neither in the heavens nor on firm land shall they ever again be harnessed." Alalu, commander of Eridu and once king of Nibiru, listened in grim silence. The glow of the chariot's engines flickered across his weary face. "He speaks with the council's voice," he said at last. "His decree is binding, but without the chariot's return," Anzu pleaded, "Nibiru shall be doomed." It was then that Abgal the pilot stepped forward, his eyes fierce with resolve. "Let me be the one," he declared. "I shall guide the chariot through the bracelet. I will face the perils of the void." So the decision was sealed. Abgal would depart. Anzu would remain upon the earth. Far above, Nibiru's stargazers studied the heavens, watching the dance of the celestial gods for an auspicious hour. When it came, they sent their signal, and the preparations began. Basketfuls of gold were loaded into the chariot, each nugget gleaming with the promise of deliverance. Abgal ascended into the forepart of the vessel and seated himself in the commander's throne. Ea approached him, bearing a single gleaming tablet, the tablet of destiny. He placed it in Abgal's hands. It shall be that which shows the way, Ea said. By it the path through the heavens shall open before you. Abgal bowed his head. Then he awakened the firestones. A deep hum filled the valley, a living song, ancient and terrible. Flames of crimson erupted beneath the chariot, casting long shadows upon Ea and Alalu, who stood side by side among the gathered Anunnaki. With a final salute, Abgal sealed the hatch. The chariot roared, shaking the earth, then lifted skyward in a blinding column of light. To Nibiru they sent word of its ascent, and across the great crimson planet the hearts of gods trembled with hope. For within that chariot, bearing the gold of earth and the fate of their dying world, rode one lone pilot toward the stars and the unbroken silence of eternity. When Anu returned to Nibiru, the heavens themselves seemed to bow before his chariot. The red gold planet shimmered in the firmament, its storms glowing like molten veins beneath the clouds, the great home of the Anunnaki calling its king back through the corridors of eternity. He descended upon the royal landing field, where lines of chariots stood in silent ranks and the banners of the great houses rippled in the thin wind. From every temple and observatory, from every citadel and high place, the people came forth to witness their sovereign's return. The court of Nibiru erupted in triumph. The air rang with hymns of praise, voices rising like flares into the darkling skies. The priests of Anu lit braziers of blue flame, offerings to the celestial Father who had ventured to the young world of earth and come back bearing the promise of life renewed. Within the great hall, Anu stood before the council of princes and the assembly of sages. His cloak, woven with the threads of starlight, trailed behind him as he approached the high dais. The gathered lords rose to their feet. Silence swept the chamber as he began to speak. He told them all that had transpired, of the descent through the hammered bracelet, of Alalu's fall in rebellion, of Ea's labor in the lands of Tiamat's heir, and of the gold found within the veins of the newborn earth. His words carried neither vengeance nor pity. What has been, he said, shall not divide us. What lies ahead shall bind us. The lifeblood of our world has been found among the stars, and we must weave a new design for our destiny. Around him, the counselors leaned forward, their eyes reflecting the glow of the crystal lights above. To preserve Nibiru, Anu declared, we shall make the heavens our domain. From Nibiru to the lower orbits, we shall lay a chain of stations, way places where our chariots may rest and replenish, sanctuaries among the stars. He spread his arms as if to draw the solar family into his embrace. All the sun's offspring shall be encompassed in one kingdom, he proclaimed. From the fiery heart of Utu to the frozen sentinels beyond, every world shall bear our mark. The first of these way stations shall rise upon Lamu, the red wanderer that lies between Nibiru's realm and Earth's green cradle. There we shall fashion a stronghold, a resting place for the caravans of heaven. A murmur rippled through the assembly, admiration mixed with awe. The moon of earth shall also be considered, Anu continued, its face forever gazing upon the world below. Upon its soil, a station of silver shall be built to watch and guide those who labor upon the planet of gold. He turned toward the sages. And upon the other spheres and their circling hosts shall we plant the signs of Nibiru's dominion. Let there be a chain of lights that binds the void, a constant caravan to bring the treasures of the earth without interruption. Should gold dwell elsewhere, let our explorers find it and our ships bring it home. The princes nodded. Hope rekindled in their eyes like dawn breaking upon the red horizon. The savants conferred among themselves, already envisioning new designs, chariots swifter than any before, powered by flame and storm, guided by crystal memory and the charts of the celestial gods. The salvation of Nibiru lies in the heavens, one sage whispered. Through the labor of the sons of Anu shall the life of our world endure. So it was decreed. The knowledge of the celestial paths was perfected anew. The Anunnaki craftsmen and engineers were summoned, their hands and minds set to work forging vessels that could pierce the void with unerring aim. From the fusion of chariot and skyship was born a new breed of craft, the rocket ship, swift as lightning, its breath a burning gale. They would leap from one world to the next, carrying with them the song of Nibiru, the cry of a people who had tamed both time and space in their search for survival. And beyond the red horizon, the stars seemed to shimmer and answer, as if the cosmos itself awaited the coming dominion of the gods of Nibiru. Yet even as they rejoiced, one chamber of memory remained dark. The burial of Alalu upon Lamu, whose bones now rested beneath the dust of the red world. His name was whispered in the wind, a warning to those who would reach for power beyond decree. But Anu's gaze turned toward the deepening void, and he saw not death, but destiny. For in his mind, the heavens were already mapped, each planet a stepping stone, each orbit a thread in the vast tapestry of his reign. Thus began the great expansion of the Anunnaki, the age when the sons of Nibiru laid claim to the sun's children, and the silence between worlds was broken by the fire song of their chariots. Across the dark red horizon of Nibiru, the forges of heaven burned anew. Towers of flame lit the capital plain as artisans and engineers labored beneath the twin moons, their songs echoing through the vaults of the sky. From the assembly yards arose a new celestial chariot, vaster than its forebears, shaped by the wisdom of Enki and the precision of the savants. Its hull shimmered with living metal drawn from the heart of Nibiru, its engines infused with crystals that pulsed like captured stars. A host of 50 heroes was chosen to crew this vessel. Warriors, builders, and scholars sworn to the great mission of renewal. Among them were chosen females, trained not for battle, but for restoration. They bore the sigil of Ninma, exalted lady of life, who would lead them across the gulf between worlds. Ninma herself was radiant in her purpose. Daughter of Anu and half-sister to Enki and Enlil, she carried within her the wisdom of both lineages. Her eyes were deep as the wells of Abzu, her bearing noble as the heavens that had birthed her. From the healing temples of Nibiru she had come, where she was mistress of the arts of life, the repairer of flesh, the renewer of breath. She had heard the cries rising from earth, the laments of those who toiled beneath its strange sun, and her heart moved her to act. "We go to heal," she declared before the gathered assembly. "We go to mend the bonds that labor and distance have strained. Let our chariot carry not only strength, but mercy." At her word, the launch began. The celestial chariot, guided by Nungal, the pilot of unerring hand, rose from Nibiru's surface. The stones of fire beneath it thundered like the voice of a god, and the red clouds parted in reverence. Its path was traced by the tablets of destiny, each turn and measure inscribed in eternal record. Beyond the hammered bracelet they flew, past the glowing bands that shimmered like the bones of a slain serpent. One by one the worlds of the sun's court appeared, gold, blue, and crimson. When they came upon Lamu, the red wanderer, its face loomed vast and scarred, veiled in dust and shadow. Circling the planet, Nungal brought the ship into descent. Through the haze they spied the gleam of a great lake, its waters glinting faintly beneath a pale sun. Upon its shore they saw the beacon, faint, pulsing, steady. "There," Ninma said, "someone still calls from the dead." They landed upon the shore, their boots sinking into ochre soil. The air was thin, the silence deep. Then they saw him, Anzu, the once proud commander, lying motionless beside the beacon that still blinked weakly from his fallen helmet. His armor was dulled by dust, his eyes stared into nothingness. Ninma knelt beside him. Her hand, graceful yet resolute, brushed the dust from his face. She bent low, listening for the whisper of breath, the flutter of a fading spark. There was none. Her attendant stood silent, awaiting her command. "Not yet," she murmured. "His essence lingers. The cord is not fully broken." From her healing pouch, she withdrew the pulsar, a device of living crystal resonant with the rhythm of the heart. She placed it upon Anzu's chest, its light flickering as she willed it into life. A tremor rippled through the still air as the device began to thrum, echoing the lost cadence of a dying heart. 60 times she guided its pulse. Between each rhythm she reached for another tool, the emitter, whose rays could summon the body's forgotten fire. Blue light spilled across Anzu's form as Ninma moved her hand in slow circles, her voice whispering ancient syllables taught in the temples of life's beginning. For long moments there was no change. The heroes watched in silence, their faith wavering as the minutes passed, but Ninma's face remained serene, her eyes fixed on the threshold between life and death. Then, upon the 60th pulse, Anzu stirred. His chest rose faintly, his lips trembled, his eyes flickered open like twin embers rekindled in ash. Then the miracle did happen. Anzu from the dead arose! A sigh passed through the company, half wonder, half disbelief. "Rest, brave one," Ninma whispered. "Your journey is not yet ended." From her pouch she drew a vial of the water of life, distilled from the sacred wells of Nibiru. Gently, she poured it upon his face, the droplets gleaming upon his skin like tears of the gods. His lips she moistened, and into his mouth she placed a fragment of the food of life, radiant and sweet with celestial essence. The miracle unfolded before them. Color returned to his cheeks, his breath grew steady, his hands moved weakly against the sand. Then Anzu, commander of chariots, rose from death's shadow. "My lady," he whispered, his voice cracked and faint. "By the light of Nibiru, you have called me back." Ninma smiled softly. "No," she said, "it is Nibiru that called you. I merely answered." The company bowed their heads in reverence, for they had witnessed the return of one claimed by the void. The wind of Lamu sighed across the lake, stirring ripples of light upon the surface, and it seemed to them that even the planet itself had drawn breath anew. Thus Ninma, exalted Lady of Life, brought healing to the realm between worlds. Her art defied the silence of death, and her name became a song among the stars, a promise that even amid the endless dust the life of Nibiru endured. In the land of Eden, where rivers wound like threads of silver through the young earth, the 5 sacred cities rose, each a beacon of the Anunnaki's dominion. Their foundations shimmered beneath the sun, their towers reaching upward as though to clasp hands with the stars from which their makers had come. Foremost among them was Eridu, the sanctuary of Enki, Lord of the Deep, whose wisdom was older than the mountains and whose hands shaped the very rivers that sustained the lands. Upon a mound of soil raised high above the plains, he built his abode, a structure of gleaming stone and burnished metal that caught the morning light and scattered it like 1,000 jewels. Its terraces ascended like a mountain carved by divine intent, crowned by domes that glowed with inner fire. Within dwelt Damkina, his beloved spouse, radiant and serene, the mother of his son Marduk. In the shaded courts of Eridu, Enki walked with the boy beside tranquil pools that mirrored the heavens. The air was perfumed with the scent of cedar and the hum of flowing water. "Wisdom," Enki said as he traced a pattern upon the surface of the water, "is the current that shapes both sea and soul. As the river knows its course, so must you, my son, learn to know your purpose." Marduk, bright-eyed and keen of mind, watched the ripples move outward. "And what is my course, father?" Enki smiled faintly, his gaze distant, as though peering through ages yet to come. "The stars will reveal it in time. For now, learn their ways, and remember that every god who rules must first understand how the world breathes." While Eridu thrived under Enki's care, Enlil, his brother, raised his mighty seat in Nibru-ki, the bond of heaven and earth, It was a sight of awe and reverence, a citadel where the sky itself seemed to bend in homage. At its center stood a pillar of such grandeur that even the storm clouds parted around it. Its summit pierced the heavens, and upon its platform, anchored in perfection, it stood immovable, a bridge between divine and mortal realms. From this sacred heart, Enlil's voice and vision reached across creation. His commands flowed like thunder through the winds, his words shaped destinies. Lamu heard his call, and even distant Nibiru felt the tremor of his will. Upon that towering edifice shone a crown-like chamber wrought of celestial alloys. Its walls were adorned with instruments that gathered light and cast forth beams across the world. With them Enlil surveyed all the lands. His eyes could pierce mountains and deserts. His net, woven of light and command, made unwanted approach impossible. Within the dark sanctum at the tower's summit, 12 emblems adorned the walls, the sacred symbols of the sun's family. Each emblem shimmered with divine radiance. The sun, the moon, Nibiru, earth, and the 8 wandering celestial gods whose paths wove the tapestry of the heavens. Beneath their glow rested the Emes, mystic tablets inscribed with the secret formulas of civilization building, order, and fate. On the Emes were also recorded the secret formulas of sun and moon, Nibiru and earth, and the 8 celestial gods. The tablets of destinies in the chamber their hues emitted. With them Enlil all comings and goings oversaw. Here, too, rested the tablets of destinies, their surfaces alive with shifting hues that echoed the pulses of the cosmos. In their reflection, Enlil read the weaving of events, past, present, and yet to come. His hands rested upon them as he spoke commands that bound heaven to earth, the word of one who ruled both sky and soil. But below, the children of Anu who had descended to labor upon the new world grew restless. The Anunnaki toiled unceasingly in the heat of Earth's quickened cycles. The days and nights turned too swiftly for their liking. The pulse of the planet was not that of distant Nibiru. They worked in the mines and fields, shaping stone, channeling rivers, forging the foundations of cities. Yet murmurs spread among them like desert wind through reeds. Their faces, once proud, grew weary. Too swiftly does this world turn, one said, his voice low with fatigue. The light burns before the body can rest. The elixir is rationed in drops, another muttered. Our strength wanes. We, who were born of stars, are chained to soil. In Eridu and Nibru-ki alike, the complaints gathered like thunder before a storm. The Anunnaki, those divine laborers sent to tame the chaos of the young earth, found themselves longing for Nibiru's distant skies, for the slower rhythm of their home. Yet in the high halls of their lords, Enki and Enlil each pondered the same question: how to ease the burden of the gods who labored beneath them, and how to preserve the order that Anu's grand design demanded. Above the shimmering cities, the heavens turned in silent witness, and the fate of gods and earth alike began to shift upon the winds. In the lush and thunderous heart of the Abzu, where the waters of the deep gushed and sang through caverns of gold-veined stone, Enki walked alone beneath the sun that burned like the eye of Nibiru itself. He was robed in woven brilliance, his garments glinting with threads of blue and silver. The air shimmered with heat and unseen power, and all around him the voices of earth's creation called out. Insects whirring like tiny harps, serpents whispering beneath the reeds, beasts bellowing in the distance. Enki, lord of the waters, bent beside the coursing stream and dipped his fingers into it, his gaze thoughtful and sharp. See how the waters differ from Nibiru's? He murmured, his tone a mix of curiosity and reverence. They breathe with their own soul. They heal, yet they corrode. They give life, yet they erode stone itself. Behind him, Ningishida, his son, approached. Younger yet wise beyond his years, Ningishida carried in his hands a crystal tablet that shimmered with etched sigils of life and death. His dark eyes gleamed with both respect and wonder as he said, "The waters here carry power, Father. They are wild, untamed as the creatures that dwell among the trees. Enki smiled faintly. Just so. The Abzu is a treasure house of mysteries. In these creatures lies knowledge that even our brightest on Nibiru could not yet fathom. They entered the House of Life, a vast sanctuary of crystal and carved stone, its walls lit by glowing orbs that shimmered like captured stars. Racks of instruments stood gleaming, rods that pulsed with magnetism, tablets that hummed with the language of Mies, jars that contained the preserved forms of beasts both known and strange. This place, said Enki, gesturing around them, is the cradle of new understanding. Here, Ningishida, we shall read the very code of creation. The Emmys will speak if we know how to ask. Together they bent over their instruments. With hands steady as starlight, Enki touched one of the living samples, a small tree-dwelling creature that clung to a branch with human-like hands. Its eyes met his, deep and uncertain. It learns, Enki whispered. It thinks. Do you see? The spark within it. Not unlike ours, though unformed. Do you mean to awaken it further? Ningishida asked softly. Enki's expression grew distant. No, not yet. The laws of life are not to be rewritten in haste. But knowledge must always be sought. So they worked, father and son, delving into the living codes that bound flesh and spirit, mapping the difference between the creatures of earth and the beings of Nibiru. They discovered patterns hidden in blood, the way the air of earth thickened the life force and shortened the breath, how the rhythm of this world's days quickened decay. Yet while Enki and his son were immersed in their studies, unrest was festering beyond the walls of the House of Life, in the minds of the Abzu, where the heat of the deep earth turned sweat into steam, and every breath tasted of metal and dust. The Anunnaki labored endlessly. Their hands dug into the blackened rock for the gold that Nibiru's atmosphere required, their bodies aching beneath the burden. They were warriors and explorers, not slaves. Yet here they were, toiling as beasts for the sake of survival. They feast in Eridu and Nibru-ki, one of them muttered, slamming his pick into the ground. While we choke on fumes, they promise rest, yet the cycles turn and still we dig, another growled. Does Enlil know what we endure? Does Enki? Among them, anger smoldered like a buried flame. The songs that once praised the gods of Nibiru turned to murmurs of defiance. They looked to the heavens, toward the glimmering red point that was their home world, and felt only bitterness. Yet Enki, in his sanctuary of learning, knew nothing of it. His mind roamed the hidden corridors of life and matter, chasing secrets the stars themselves had whispered. Night fell upon the Abzu, and the House of Life glowed from within like a great lantern in the darkness. Enki stood at the threshold, gazing upward at the twin moons of earth. Perhaps, he murmured, the Creator of all gave this world to us not merely to harvest, but to learn humility. Ningishida looked upon his father, sensing a quiet unease in his tone. And yet the others grow restless, he said. I have heard their complaints in the fields and forges. They call for justice. Enki's eyes darkened, though his voice remained calm. Let them call, the heavens turn as they must. There will be a reckoning, my son, but not yet. First, we must understand the life of this world, for therein may lie the key to all peace or to all rebellion. He turned back toward the glowing instruments, and in the flickering light, the air of the Abzu seemed to hum with fate. Somewhere deep beneath the surface, gold glimmered in the rock like buried fire. And above, in the sky beyond sight, Nibiru moved on its long, fateful course. What was not conceived was unrest by the new-coming Anunnaki, who in the Abzu toiled. Truth be said, Enki to what was brewing heed was not giving. To other matters in the Abzu his attention was directing. With that which in the Abzu grows and lives, fascination he acquired. Of the differences between what on earth and what on Nibiru appeared he wished to learn. How maladies by earth's cycles and atmosphere were caused he wished to uncover. In the Abzu, by the gushing waters, a wondrous study place he erected, With all manner of tools and equipment he furnished it. House of Life he called the place. To it his son Ningishida he invited. Sacred formulas, tiny me's, the secrets of life and death possessing they shaped. The mysteries of living and dying of earth's creatures they to unravel sought. With some living creatures, Enki was especially enamored. They lived among the tall trees, their front legs as hands they were using. In the tall grasses of the steppes, odd creatures were seen. Erect they seemed to be walking. Absorbed was Enki in those studies. What was among the Anunnaki brewing he noticed not. In the age when the heavens trembled and the earth herself began to stir in fevered breath, the lands of the Anunnaki lay heavy beneath a rising warmth. The once mild winds turned thick and restless, and the very scent of the air grew sharp with change. In the Aden, rivers swelled past their bounds, their gushing waters turning the fertile plains into seas of glittering mud. Vegetation, once sparse and ordered, now surged in wild abundance. Forests devoured the plains. Vines scaled the ruins of olden abodes. The beasts of the field multiplied without restraint, their cries echoing through valleys that quaked beneath the strain of awakening mountains. Upon the snow-white reaches of the lower world, the glacial walls began to melt. The seas, freed from their frozen bars, roared outward with unstoppable might. Across the horizon, volcanoes bled their fury, vomiting fire and brimstone, their molten breath darkening the sun. The earth shuddered again and again, as if a voice buried deep within her core was rumbling to be heard. At the edge of the Abzu, where the land gave way to the steaming mists of the southern seas, Enki stood upon a high terrace carved from black basalt. He gazed toward the trembling horizon, his golden eyes reflecting the glow of distant eruptions. His voice was low but resolute. "The earth groans, my children. She wrestles with her own becoming." He turned to Nergal, his son of fire and judgment, whose eyes burned like bronze beneath his helm. Beside him stood Ereshkigal, queen of the lower world, her gaze cold and sharp as moonlight over stone. "A thing unknown brews beneath us," said Nergal. "The deep trembles as though something ancient stirs beneath its crust. The snows are weeping, and the mountains crack open like shells." Enki's brow furrowed. "Observe and hold your ground. From here we must listen to the heart of the earth itself. What it conceals may yet be wisdom, or doom." Far to the north in Nibru-ki, the city of Enlil shone beneath a storm-filled sky. Within the towering house of the bond heaven-earth, Enlil moved among the gleaming tablets of destinies. His hands traced their divine etchings, reading the courses of stars and the murmurs of the celestial ones. "There is turmoil in the heavens," he said, his voice echoing through the high chamber. "The circuits of the gods waver. The harmony between earth and the above falters." His messengers went forth, sending word to Enki in the Abzu and Marduk upon Lamu. The responses came swiftly, carried by beams of burning light. From Lamu, the red world of the way station, came the voice of Marduk, strong yet troubled. "Father, the winds of Lamu have turned violent. Dust storms lash our dwellings, and the air bites with 1,000 stinging teeth. In the hammered bracelet, chaos reigns. Fragments strike like fire through the void." Even as his message was received, the heavens themselves began to boil with wrath. From the skies, brimstones fell like the arrows of angry gods. The earth flamed with sudden fires. Great stones blazed as they tore through the clouds, and in their wake storms raged, winds shrieking like demons. In full daylight, darkness came, swallowing the lands of men and God alike. "The heavens rage," cried Ninurta from the Eden. "The face of the moon is scarred, the seas rebel." Indeed, Kingu, the moon, was struck by the fury of the skies, his body pocked and wounded. Lamu groaned beneath falling stones, its red deserts charred and broken. Even Nibiru felt the trembling as his children cried out. Enlil and Enki lifted their eyes to the burning sky and together sent their words to Anu, the king of heaven. A calamity unknown has seized the family of the sun. The earth, the moon, and Lamu are wounded. We beg counsel from the savants of Nibiru. From the far reaches of the royal realm came the reply of the wise. The celestial family shifts in its stations. Behold, the seven in a line have taken strange places. Nibiru nears the sun's house, but its course is swayed by the will of others. Their warning was dire. The hammered bracelet has turned against its order. Fragments are torn from its heart, and Nibiru, bereft of the celestial bar, stumbles. Lahamu abandons her station near the sun. She drifts toward Nibiru, drawn as a bride to a forbidden flame. In her longing to become queen of heaven, Lahamu defied the harmony of the spheres. To quell her rebellion, Nibiru summoned forth a terror from the deep, a beast born of the first war, forged in the time when Tiamat's host fell. From the darkness it came, a monstrous dragon of living fire, its head vast as mountains, its tail stretching 50 leagues across the stars. The vault of heaven burned with its passage. By day it devoured the light, by night it draped the moon in its shadow. Lahamu cried out, "Who among the celestials will aid me? Who will obstruct the dragon's path?" Only valiant Kingu, scarred protector of old, rose to meet the beast. Into its path he hurled himself, his cry resounding across the void. The clash was fury itself. Clouds twisted into storms. The moon quaked and staggered beneath the blow. Lightning danced between the two titans, and then silence. The heavens stilled. The beast was gone, swallowed once more by the deep. Nibiru, scarred but sovereign, turned from the sun and resumed its long, lonely course into the far reaches of the sky. The storm of stones ceased. The burning skies grew calm. In the quiet that followed, Enki and Enlil descended to survey the wreckage. Marduk and Ninurta joined them, their faces shadowed with the memory of celestial fire. Together they traversed the wounded lands. Mountains had split open, seas had changed their beds, and plains once fertile now smoked with sulfur. Enki knelt by the waters, his eyes reflecting the molten glow of the horizon. "The gold remains," he said at last. "In the deepest mines the veins of life still shine. Nibiru shall not perish." Ninurta flew above the trembling earth in his skyship, mapping the scars of chaos. "The landing platform endures," he reported, "yet the valleys of the north spew fire. The air is thick with mists of sulfur and the stench of bitumen." From Lamu, Marduk's message came again, weary but resolute. "The atmosphere is thin, the dust storms endless, work falters. Father, grant me return to earth. Let me stand again upon the living world." Enlil heard, and his mind turned toward the olden designs. The plan laid in the beginning when the first chariot descended to the waters of Eridu. "We must restore the order of the heavens," he said. "A chariot place shall be built in the Eden. From earth we shall rise once more to the paths of the gods." He revealed to them the crystal tablet bearing the ancient designs, its surface shimmering with the geometry of the stars. "The way to Lamu is no longer certain," Enlil declared. "To reach Nibiru from earth, we must forge our own stairway through the sky." So began the new age of the Anunnaki, the rebuilding of Nibru-ki, the bond between earth and heaven. It was the count of 80 shars since their first descent, and the earth, once wounded and wild, stood again upon the threshold of destiny. 80 shars is 80 years to Nibiru and 288,000 years to earth. The gods looked upward. The heavens had quieted, but their hearts knew this peace was only the eye of a storm yet to come. The original translation from Sumerian to English of the heavenly havoc went like this: "Upon the earth the warmth was rising, vegetation flourished, wild creatures overran the land. The rains were heavier, rivers were gushing, homes repairing needed. Upon the earth the heat was increasing, the snow-white parts to water were melting. The bars of the seas, the oceans were not containing. From the depths of the earth volcanoes were fire and brimstones belching. The grounds were trembling each time the earth was shaking. In the lower world, the snow-white-hued place, the earth was grumbling. At the tip of the Abzu, Enki a place for observing established. To his son Nergal and his spouse, Ereshkigal command thereof, he entrusted. A thing unknown, an unexpected thing, thereunder is brewing, Nergal to his father Enki said. In Nibru-ki, the place of the bond, heaven, earth, Enlil, the heavenly circuits, was watching. By the means of the tablets of destiny's celestial motions he was comparing. There is turmoil in the heavens. Enlil to his brother Enki said, from the planet Lamu, the place of the way station, Marduk to Enki his father was complaining. Strong winds are disturbing, annoying dust storms they are raising. So Marduk to his father Enki words was beaming. In the hammered bracelet turmoils are occurring. Upon the earth brimstones from the skies were falling, pitiless demons havoc causing. Violently the earth they approached. Into flaming fires in the skies they were bursting. In a clear day darkness they were causing. With storms and evil winds they raged around. Like stony missiles the earth they were attacking. Kingu, earth's moon, and Lamu too by these havocs were afflicted. The faces of all three with countless scars were covered. Enlil and Enki, to Anu the king, urgent words were beaming. Nibiru savants they alerted. The earth and the moon and Lamu a calamity unknown are facing. From Nibiru the savants were responding. Their words the leaders' hearts were not calming. In the heavens the family of the sun were taking stations. The celestials, of whom earth is the seventh in a row, were choosing places. In the heavens, Nibiru was approaching, the sun's abode it was nearing. By the seven, in a row arraigned, was Nibiru distracted. The path through the hammered bracelet it was missing. From the bracelet bits and pieces it has been displacing. Bereft and deprived of the celestial bar, Lahamu with Mumu near the sun were crouching. In the heavens, Lahamu her glorious dwelling place was abandoning. Toward Nibiru, the heavenly king, she was attracted, a queen of heaven she wished to be. To quell her, Nibiru from the celestial deep a monstrous demon made appear, a monster once to Tiamat's host belonging, by the celestial battle fashioned. From the celestial deep made its way, by Nibiru was it from slumber awakened, from horizon to the midst of heaven like a flaming dragon it was stretched. 1 league was its head, 50 leagues in length it was, awesome was its tail. By day the skies of earth it darkened, by night upon the face of the moon a spell of darkness it cast. To her brothers, the celestials, Lahamu for help was calling. Who will the dragon obstruct? Who will stop and kill it? She was asking. Only valiant Kingu, once Tiamat's protector, stepped forward to respond. To intercept the dragon in its path, Kingu was making haste. Fierce was the encounter. A tempest of clouds upon Kingu was raised. By its foundations was Kingu shaken. From the impact did the moon quake and shake. Then the heavenly havoc was calm. Nibiru to its distant abode in the deep was returning. Lahamu, its dwelling place, did not abandon. The stony missiles upon the earth and Lamu ceased their reigning. Enki and Enlil with Marduk and Ninurta gathered, a surveying of the havoc they undertook. The foundations of the earth Enki surveyed, of what its platforms had befallen he examined. The depths of the oceans he measured, in earth's far corners the mountains of gold and copper he scanned. Of the vital gold there will be no shortage. Thus was Enki saying, in the Eden Ninurta was the surveyor, where mountains trembled and valleys shook. In his skyship he soared and journeyed. The landing platform was intact. In the valleys of the north the earth fiery liquids was pouring. So was Ninurta to his father Enlil telling. Sulfuric mists and bitumens he was discovering. On Lamu the atmosphere was damaged. Dust storms were with life and work interfering. So Marduk to Enki was saying, to earth return I wish. To his father he disclosed. Enlil to his olden plans betook himself. What cities and their tasks he planned he reconsidered. A chariot place in the Eden must be established. To the others he was saying, the olden designs of the layout on the crystal tablet to them he showed. The conveying from the landing place to the way station on Lamu is no longer certain. To soar toward Nibiru from Earth we must be able, so was Enlil to them saying. For the count since the first splashdown, the count of 80 shars it was. The heavens were quiet after the storm of ages, their vast fires now gliding in their ancient rhythm. From the gleaming halls of Nibru-ki, Enlil spoke before the gathered assembly, his voice ringing like the call of a bronze gong through the marble chamber. "Let the place of the chariots near Batibira be built," declared Ninurta his son, commander of the metal city. "There the gold of earth shall be smelted and made pure, that it may be borne directly to Nibiru without delay." Enlil's stern face softened, pride lit his eyes. "Your wisdom shines, my son," he said. "Your counsel I will bear before the king." Anu listened from the lofty throne of Nibiru's citadel, the golden glow of the planet's dim sun cast upon his crown. "Let there indeed be a place of celestial chariots," Enlil told him. "Near the refining fires it shall stand, where the labors of earth yield gold. From there the precious lifeblood of Nibiru shall ascend to us without cease." But Enki, the lord of the Abzu, raised his voice. "Father, great is my brother's plan, but within it lies danger unseen. The net pull of earth is vast, greater than that of Lamu. To rise from its grasp will drain our strength, and even our mightiest ships may falter. Yet the earth has a companion, the moon, a lesser world it dances ever near. Its pull is weaker, its rise less burdened. Let it be a station between heaven and earth. Let me and my son journey there, that we may know its secrets." Anu pondered, his eyes shining with the wisdom of uncounted shars. He turned to the council of sages and the gathered savants. "Shall the moon be examined first?" he asked. "Let the moon be first examined," they answered as one. Then Anu, with the gesture of kings, sent the command through the beams of destiny. "Enki and Enlil, thus it is decreed, the moon shall be the next path of discovery." A thrill passed through Enki's heart. From his youth he had gazed upon that silvery wanderer, drawn by its mystery. Often he had stood upon the terraces of Eridu when Nibiru's night descended, watching its glow dance with the sun's fire. Does it hold waters, he had wondered? Does it whisper the same song as Nibiru's oceans? Now the chance was before him. He and Marduk ascended into their gleaming rocket ship, the chariot of flight, its body plated with hammered gold, its wings marked with the sigils of the deep. The roar of its engines rolled like thunder across the plains of the Eden, and the earthbound Anunnaki raised their eyes as a pillar of flame carried the Father of Wisdom and his Son toward the heavens. Through the skies they soared, leaving the blue sphere of earth behind. Around the moon they circled thrice, studying the ancient wounds gouged into its face by the celestial dragon's wrath, the scars of that long-ago war when Tiamat's brood had been struck down by Nibiru's host. At last they descended, their vessels settling amidst rolling hills of gray dust and stone. There they stood, the first of the Anunnaki to touch the moon's barren ground. Above them stretched a sky without breath, and beyond it hung the earth, blue, white, and brown, suspended like a jewel in the black sea of the cosmos. They donned their eagles' helmets, for the air was thin and dead. Together they walked across the silent land, their footsteps stirring ghostly trails that hung motionless behind them. "It is a grave of the heavens," said Marduk. "Dryness and desolation lie everywhere. Unlike Lamu, there is no life here. It cannot serve as a station between worlds. Let us abandon this place and return to earth." But Enki raised a hand. "Do not be hasty, my son. Are you not awed by this dance of worlds? See how the moon turns about the earth, and how both together encircle the sun. From here, no mountain nor cloud obscures the sight. The earth floats like a sphere of glass lit by the fires of the sun. Here we may behold the handiwork of the Creator of all." Marduk was silent, his gaze fixed upon the glowing orb that was their home. The words of his father stirred something deep within him. "Then let us stay," he said. In the shelter of their vessel they made their dwelling. For 1 circuit of earth, for 3 circuits of the moon they remained. They measured the moon's turning, naming the cycle of its face, the month. For 6 circuits of earth, 12 around the sun, they marked the year. They saw how the light waxed and waned, how the stars vanished in the fire of day and returned with the cool of night. They turned their instruments toward the sun's quarter, mapping the paths of Mumu and Lahamu. "Behold," said Enki, tracing the arcs upon his crystal chart, "these are the 6 of the lower waters, the sun's close kindred, and beyond the hammered bracelet are 6 more, Anshar and Kishar, Anu and Nudimud, Gaga and Nibiru. Thus 12 are they in all, the family of the sun." Marduk's brow furrowed. "Father, why have 7 taken places in a line? What sign is this?" Enki studied the heavens, his eyes glinting with divine thought. Upon his chart he traced the bands of their motion, and in his heart he grasped the pattern of the cosmos. "See how they move in their grand band around the sun, our progenitor. By their paths shall all time be known. This shall be the way of Anu, the royal road of heaven." Together they watched the expanse of stars unfold. The heavens turned in solemn majesty, and Enki's mind kindled with revelation. He began to draw upon the tablet of light, marking the forms of the constellations, the ancient images hidden among the stars. One by one he paired them with the 12 of the sun's family, assigning to each a station and a name. Then, in the deep belt below the way of Anu, where Nibiru's orbit pierced the distant dark, he traced another path. "This shall be the way of Enki," he said, "for it follows the deep waters of creation." He shaped 12 more constellations there, giving to each the likeness of the beasts and symbols of his realm. Above the royal band he formed the way of Enlil, the upper tier, where the winds of heaven blow fierce and pure. There too he set 12 constellations, the guardians of the high road. 36 stars constellations he arranged in all, 3 paths across the firmament, so that the heavens themselves became a map of order and divine measure. "Now when Nibiru draws near or departs," said Enki, "its course shall be read by these stations of light. From earth shall we know its coming and its going. Thus the count of heaven shall govern the days of earth, and the turning of the sun shall mark the ages of gods and men alike." So spoke Enki, standing upon the silent moon beside his son, the vault of eternity glittering above them. And from that night forward the heavens bore the threefold ways of Anu, Enlil, and Enki, paths by which the Anunnaki would ever know their place among the stars. Upon the barren and glittering plains of the moon, beneath the cold shimmer of the unfiltered stars, Enki and Marduk stood together in silence. Their vessel, a gleaming chariot of celestial fire, rested on the ashen slopes behind them, its surface reflecting the silver of a sun unseen. Before them, the earth hung suspended in the void, a jewel of blue and green, slowly turning within the black river of heaven. Enki lifted his gaze, tracing the orbit of their home world, then the sweep of the constellations that glittered like inscriptions across eternity. His eyes, ancient and luminous with memory, turned to his son. "The start of the cycle," Enki said at last, his voice low and resonant, echoing faintly through the thin confines of his helmet. "The measure of celestial time begins anew. When on earth I first arrived, the station then ending, I named the station of the fishes. The one that followed, after my name and title, he of the waters, I called." He turned to Marduk, a faint smile beneath his beard, pride stirring his words like fire beneath stone. "So runs the design of heaven, written upon the face of time itself." Marduk's gaze did not leave the horizon, where earth's glow faded into the black sea of creation. His voice, though measured, carried a deep ache beneath its calm. "Your wisdom," he said, "embraces the heavens. Your teachings extend even my own understanding. But on earth and on Nibiru, Knowledge and rulership remained divided. The stars above them seemed to pulse with that truth. "My son," said Enki, turning toward him. "My son, what is it you do not know? What is it that you are missing? The secrets of the heavens and of the earth I have shared with you." Marduk's shoulders stiffened, and when he spoke again, there was sorrow in his voice that no distance could soften. "Alas, my father," he said, and the words hung between them like dust in the still air. "When the Anunnaki and the Abzu ceased their toil, and the primitive worker you resolved to fashion, not my mother but Ninma, the mother of Ninurta, was summoned to your side. Not I, but Ningishzida, my younger, was called to aid you. With them, not with me, you shared the mysteries of life and death." Enki's gaze dimmed, heavy with both understanding and regret. "My son," he answered gently, "to you was command given over the Ijiji and over Lamu. To be supreme among them, this was your destiny." But Marduk shook his head, the faint shimmer of his visor catching the pale reflection of the distant earth. "Alas, my father," he said again, "of supremacy by fate we are deprived. You, my father, are Anu's firstborn, yet Enlil, not you, is the legal heir. You were first to descend to the waters and raise Eridu from the deep, yet Eridu lies in Enlil's domain, while yours is cast far in the southern Abzu. And I, your firstborn, born of your true spouse upon Nibiru, find the same measure set upon me. The gold that sustains our world is gathered not by me but by Ninurta. It is he who commands its dispatch, he who withholds or grants the breath of survival to Nibiru. In my hands there is only waiting. And now as we turn again toward earth, I ask you, my father, what will my task be? Am I to rise to fame and kingship, or to return once more to humiliation?" The stillness of the moon deepened. Not even the whisper of cosmic wind disturbed the desolate plain. Enki stepped forward, placing a hand upon his son's shoulder. The gesture carried centuries of struggle and a father's burden of memory. In silence he embraced Marduk, and beneath the cold stars of the desolate moon he gave him a promise, one that glowed with the quiet fire of prophecy. "That which I have been denied," Enki said, "shall one day be your inheritance. Your celestial time will come. A station mine adjoining yours shall rise. When the cycles turn again, the heavens themselves will bear your name, and in their turning, the promise of our blood will be fulfilled. And in that solemn vow, beneath the eternal gaze of earth and Nibiru alike, the seed of future dominion was sown. The promise that the son of Enki would one day claim what the stars themselves had written, long before any god set foot upon the dust of the worlds. Beneath the golden sun of the Eden, the land shimmered as though the heavens themselves had poured down molten light. Rivers wound like living silver between fertile plains, and the temples of the Anunnaki gleamed with a brilliance that caught the eyes of gods and men alike. But above this beauty hung the tension of divided wills. For long had Enki and his son Marduk been absent, dwelling upon the moon in study and silence while earth awaited their return. For many circuits of the sun they had remained away, and in their absence no new works were begun. The Ijiji on Lamu, restless in their solitude, sent anxious words through the void. The storms of dust that swept the red planet had damaged their way station, and fear spread among them like a shadow, fear that they had been forgotten by those who ruled from above. In Nibru-ki, the bond heaven earth, Enlil brooded. From his lofty tower he beamed secret words to Anu upon Nibiru, his voice heavy with restrained anger. "Enki and Marduk have gone to the moon," he said. "For countless circuits they remain there, their doings unknown. What they scheme I cannot tell. Marduk has abandoned the way station upon Lamu. The Ijiji are agog with uncertainty. Dust storms have struck. The damage we cannot yet know. The place of the chariots must be established here upon the earth in the Eden. Therefrom the gold shall rise directly to Nibiru. No longer shall we depend upon the outpost of Lamu. The plan is Ninurta's. Wise is he in these matters. Let him near Bad Tibira, the metal city, construct the place of the chariots. Let him be his first commander. Anu pondered long upon the words of his steadfast son. From the deep glow of the heavens, his answer came like thunder across the ether. Enki and Marduk are returning to earth, said the king of Nibiru. Let us first hear what they have found upon the moon, before new decrees are made. When at last the chariot of Enki descended in flame through the skies, a tremor shook the plains of Eridu. The father and son, still dusted with the silver of lunar desolation, stood before the assembled host. They spoke of their journey, of the barren plains and shattered craters, of a land too harsh, too lifeless for their purpose. A way station it cannot be, said Marduk. Its breath is thin, its soil dead. The evil dragon's scars lie deep upon its face. It is unfit for our dwelling. Let the place of the chariots be built upon the earth, declared Anu from the distant throne of Nibiru, and his command rippled through the heavens. Let Marduk be its commander, Enki said swiftly. The task is for Ninota, and Lil's voice rose sharp as a blade of wind. Set aside this scheming. For the Ajiji's command there is no more need. Marduk seeks dominion beyond his place. But Enki stood firm before him. He is my son, he said. Of the task he has deep knowledge, of the skies and the vessels their secrets he knows. Let him rule the gateway to heaven. Let him guard the rising and descent of the chariots. A silence followed, one heavy as the deep beneath the Abzu. Rivalry, long veiled beneath courtesy, now flared like embers in a storm. The sons of Enlil and the sons of Enki had begun to divide the world between them. Then Anu, whose wisdom was as old as the stars themselves, spoke again. His words were steady, his judgment final. Rivalries of blood shall not shape the destiny of earth. The place of the chariots where gold shall pass from world to world shall be the charge of a new generation. Neither Enlil nor Enki, neither Ninurta nor Marduk shall command it. To Utu, the son of Nanar, the grandson of Enlil, shall this task belong. Let Sippar, the bird city, be its name, its wings to span between earth and the heavens. The decree of Anu could not be altered. In the 81st Shar, the construction began. The builders of Nibiru, guided by the divine measure, traced the sacred geometry of the Aden. Nibru-ki, the navel of the earth, stood at the heart of the design. From there Enlil drew a line, a perfect arrow of divine alignment, stretching from the lower sea toward the twin peaks of Arata in the far north. At the point where the arrow met the line drawn from the mountains, the place was marked, the destined ground of Sippar. Upon it they raised a city that shimmered like the wings of the eagle, its towers aligned with the stars, its runways like shining spears upon the plain. When at last the work was complete in the 82nd Shar, the gods gathered in awe. Utu, radiant with the vigor of youth, was brought before them. To him Enlil bestowed the golden helm of command, an eagle's helmet whose crest caught the light of the sun. Upon his shoulders were fastened the wings of the eagle, symbols of his dominion over the skies. From Sippar, the bird city, the Anunnaki would henceforth ascend and descend between worlds. Its paths shone like veins of light across the face of the earth, and the heavens, for the first time since the beginning, knew harmony again. Though beneath that peace the seeds of ambition still waited, quiet as embers beneath ash, to flare once more in the age of kings yet to come. The sky blazed with fire as the chariot of Anu descended from the heavens. It came not as a mere craft of metal and light, but as a living star, tearing through the blue vault of earth's firmament to land upon the glistening runways of Sippar, the bird city. From horizon to horizon, the Anunnaki gathered to behold the arrival of their king. The air itself seemed to shimmer with anticipation, and when the golden chariot at last came to rest, a radiant silence fell before erupting into thunderous acclamation. Anu, ancient and resplendent, stepped forth from the vessel that had carried him through the black expanse between worlds. The air around him hummed with the energy of Nibiru's might. He gazed upon Separ, the place of the chariots, and marveled. Towers of crystal and metal reached for the heavens, their tips glinting like stars reborn upon the earth. Vast platforms stretched outward, humming with the power that bound heaven and soil together. It was the culmination of eons of labor, the dream of gods made manifest. The Ijiji came down from Lamu at Marduk's command, their skyships streaking like silver serpents through the atmosphere. From the Abzu and from the far-flung cities of the Aden, the Anunnaki assembled. There was rejoicing and song, feasting and revelry beneath the light of twin orbs, sun above and Nibiru gleaming faintly beyond the sky. For Anu, Inanna herself danced. The daughter of Nana, radiant as the morning star, moved in circles of fire and grace before the king. Her voice lifted in song that wove through the hearts of gods and heroes alike. When she drew near, Anu placed his hands upon her cheeks and kissed her tenderly. Anu-nitu, he said softly, naming her Anu's beloved. In the days that followed, the celebration grew into a festival of creation itself. The kings of heaven and earth gathered beneath banners of gold and crimson, and Anu summoned all before him, heroes of the Eden, warriors of the Abzu, the Ijiji of Lamu, and the keepers of the gold. A new era has begun, Anu declared, his voice echoing across the plains like thunder rolling through eternity. Supplied directly with the golden salvation, the end of your toil draws near. Once the treasure of protection lies abundant upon Nibiru, the great burden shall be lifted, a few more showers of labor, and homeward you shall return. A cry of joy rose among them. Hope blazed once more in the hearts of the weary. When at last the time came for Anu to depart, his chariot was laden with pure gold, gleaming with the light of promise. The heavens opened to receive him, and in a storm of brilliance he rose once more toward Nibiru, leaving the earth trembling beneath the power of his ascent. Utu, grandson of Enlil, took his command at Separ with pride and diligence. His helm shone like the wings of the eagle, and his eyes scanned both horizon and sky. Ninurta retained his hold upon Bad Tibira, the metal city, the heartbeat of refinement and forge. Yet Marduk, restless of spirit, returned neither to Lamu nor to his father's halls in the Abzu. He soared across the world in his skyship, tracing rivers and mountains, valleys and seas. He sought to know the breadth of the planet they had claimed. From the mountains of Arata to the southern marshlands he flew, marking in silence the handiwork of gods and men. After Anu's departure, great expectations stirred among the Anunnaki. They labored anew with vigor, for the king's words had filled them with the promise of homecoming. Gold they gathered in abundance, dreaming of the day when their task would end. But soon disappointment spread like shadow over sunlight. In the Abzu, the toilers murmured among themselves, was it not promised that the earthlings would bear the labor? Why must we still bend our backs beneath the weight of stone and ore? They turned their gaze to the primitive workers, the creatures shaped by Enki's art, born of divine essence and clay. Let them toil in our stead, they said. Let them fill the baskets, dig the tunnels, and carry the loads. We are of Anu's seed. Our task was only to begin the work. Their pleas rose from the depths of the Abzu to the cities of the Eden, where the burden too had grown heavy. The gardens and dwellings of the gods required endless tending, and the heroes of the Eden clamored for aid. For 40 shars relief was granted only to the Abzu. They cried, our toil grows beyond endurance. Let the workers be brought here as well. While Enki and Enlil debated, their voices thundered across the heavens. One saw wisdom in balance, the other feared corruption of order. Yet before a decision could be reached, Ninurta acted. With 50 heroes, he descended into the Abzu, his warriors armed with the weapons of capture. Through forests thick with mist and across the golden plains, they chased the earthlings, casting nets woven with strands of divine metal. Male and female alike they seized, bringing them bound to the Aden. There they trained them to till the orchards, to tend the herds, to carry water from the canals. The earthlings labored with surprising swiftness and understanding, their eyes bright with both fear and curiosity. When Enki saw what had been done, anger burned within him. When Enlil beheld it, his wrath was fiercer still. My expelling of Adamu and Tiamat you have overturned, Enlil cried. His voice shook the towers of Nibru-ki. But Ninurta met his fury with resolve. Let the mutiny once born in the Abzu not take root here, he said. With these workers the heroes find peace. A few more shars, and the need will end. Enlil grumbled, his pride wounded. Yet at last he said, Let it be so. Let the gold be gathered swiftly, that we may all return to Nibiru. Thus, within the Eden, the earthlings multiplied. The Anunnaki watched them with growing fascination. They saw in them something more than servants, something awakening. They understand our commands, the heroes murmured. They learn, they speak, they grow. Unclothed, they toil beneath the sun, yet their minds gleamed with hidden fire. Males and females mated freely, and their children came swiftly, generation upon generation. In a single shar the world changed. Within a few cycles of Nibiru there were many, a race of beings spreading across the plains and gardens of the gods. The Anunnaki looked upon their creation and wondered. For though they had fashioned the earthlings as tools, within them stirred the same spark that once blazed upon Nibiru's red horizon, the spark of destiny itself. The heavens shimmered with amber fire as Nibiru's great chariot pierced the dark sea of space, descending once more upon the jewel-blue earth. In the Eden below, the lands glowed under the brilliance of twin moons, and the breath of humankind filled the valleys and plains. The earthlings had multiplied beyond count, sons and daughters of clay and divine seed, their laughter and toil echoing across the fields. Yet though the Anunnaki had workers in abundance, their tables were barren. The cities hummed with hunger, and their storehouses groaned with want. In orchards and mountain terraces, the earthlings scavenged for sustenance. They plucked roots from the soil, gathered herbs from the high ridges, and hunted small beasts among the reeds. There were no fields yet sown, no grains to harvest, no lambs to shear or flocks to tend. The world was wild still, the dawn of civilization only a dream in Enki's mind. It was Enlil who broke the uneasy silence between gods. In the grand hall of Nibru-ki, where the gold of distant stars reflected off stone walls, his anger thundered. By your doings confusion was created, Enlil declared, his voice cutting through the chamber. By you, Enki of the Abzu, let salvation be devised. Enki stood before him, arms folded, his eyes the color of the deep ocean. Confusion, he said softly, is but the mother of wisdom. Yet I see what you mean, brother. The creatures we shaped hunger, and through their hunger we too are made restless. Enlil's gaze hardened. Then fix what you have broken. The order of earth has fallen into chaos. The earthlings eat what they find, but they feed none of us. You made them in cleverness. Make them useful. Enki's lips curved into the faintest smile. Then let us bring forth the seeds of plenty. Let us teach them the tilling of soil and the tending of herds. But this could not be done without the consent of Anu, the high king upon Nibiru, whose will spanned the heavens. And so word was sent to the celestial throne. In the glittering palace above the swirling crimson clouds of Nibiru, Anu convened the high assembly. Around him stood the noble ones, Elabrat the counselor, Dumuzi the tender of life, and Ningishida, whose mind was like a lattice of stars. Anu's eyes, older than time itself, turned to Ningishida. Know you what your father's message said? The young god bowed his head. I know not, my king, he said quietly, but I can guess. The life essence of Adapa I have tested. Of Enki's seed he is. Anu nodded slowly. That indeed is the message. Adapa, the earthling born of Enki's own essence, shall return to earth. His destiny is sealed to be the progenitor of civilized man. A murmur rippled through the assembly. Adapa, the mortal who had walked among gods, would return to the realm of dust. Anu raised a hand for silence. As for you, Ningishzida, with him you shall return. At your father's side you will teach the seed of Adapa the ways of knowledge, of stars and seasons. You shall guide them into wisdom, and to earth you will bring the seeds of Nibiru, the grains that multiply, that hunger may end. He turned to Dumuzi, youngest of Enki's sons, whose eyes gleamed like spring water. You shall remain upon Nibiru for one shar. Then with ewes and the essence of the sheep you shall return to earth. From your hand shall come shepherds and flocks, and the fields will be full of life. The decision was made. None dared question it. When the appointed time came, the heavens themselves seemed to shiver. At the place of the celestial chariots, where great spires pierced the clouds, Ningishzida and Adapa stood ready. Around them gathered kings and counselors, heroes and nobles, their golden garments rippling like flame. Anu and Dumuzi approached to bid farewell. Go in peace, said Anu. Bear to earth the knowledge that shall end the age of hunger. The time of beasts and roots shall pass. The time of men shall dawn. With a roar that shook the stones beneath their feet, the chariot rose. The wind screamed, the sky ignited. Through the vast darkness they journeyed, watching as Nibiru grew small and distant. Ningishzida spoke as they traveled, teaching Adapa of the mysteries that lay between heaven and earth. He spoke of the sun's path and the dance of the moon. He traced invisible lines across the void, showing how the months pursued one another and how the years of earth counted slower than those of Nibiru. Adapa listened with awe, his mortal mind opening like a flower to starlight. When they descended through the great blue veil of Earth's atmosphere, Enki awaited them at Eridu. His laughter rang through the chambers when Ningishzida told all that had occurred. It went as I expected, Enki said, striking his loins in glee. Except for the detention of Dumuzi, that puzzles me still. What game does Anu play? But Enlil was not so amused. He summoned Ninmah and demanded account. When he heard of Enki's mingling with the daughters of men, his fury was terrible to behold. No laws you broke, Enlil said, voice trembling with restrained wrath. Yet by your act the fates of gods and mortals have been bound together. Destiny now moves beyond our will. Enki met his gaze without fear. The earthlings were hungry, he said simply. Now they shall have bread. From them shall come wisdom, and from wisdom peace. Enlil turned away, his heart a storm of anger and foreboding. Then so it shall be, he said. Let what you have begun take its course. The lot is cast, and by fate we are overtaken. As he departed, the shadows deepened. Across the heavens, Nibiru shone faintly red, watching the earth below as if in judgment. And in the gardens of Eridu, Adapa, the first civilized man, walked beside the gods beneath the stars, while Enki's laughter echoed across the waters. The age of toil had ended. The age of knowledge had begun. But above them, in the stillness between worlds, destiny stirred, a current unseen, drawing gods and men alike toward trials yet unspoken. The shadow of Marduk's ambition loomed on the horizon, and the next turning of the celestial cycle was already being written in the heavens. The winds from the southern sea rolled gently across the plains of Eridu, carrying with them the songs of shepherds and the lowing of cattle. The lands of the Eden had long known the rule of the Anunnaki and the labors of Adapa's descendants. Beneath the gaze of the golden temples and the shadow of the ziggurats, the generations of the first civilized men had multiplied, their cities glittering like stars upon the face of the earth. Now the tale turns to the generations of Adapa after Cain's exile into the wilderness, and to the heavenly journeys of Enkime, son of Irid, and to the passing of Adapa, the first of men to speak with gods. In the 99th Shar, since the count of time upon earth began, a son was born to Kunin, of his half-sister Mualit conceived. They named him Malalu, he who plays, for in his heart the rhythm of creation stirred. From childhood his fingers summoned harmonies from hollow reeds, and his voice carried the sweetness of the early winds. Ninurta, the warrior son of Enlil, heard of the boy's gift, and called him to his hall in Bad Tibira. There, before the shining ones, Ninurta shaped for him a harp of silver and a flute of lapis. "Play for me," said the mighty one, and when Malalu played, the god smiled. "You bring joy to gods and men alike. Let your song rise as offering." And so in the courts of Ninurta, Malalu's daughters sang hymns of praise, their melodies woven into the wind like prayers to eternity. Malalu took to wife Dana, daughter of his father's brother, and in the 100th Shar a son was born to them. Dana named him Irid, he of the sweet waters, for Dumuzi, shepherd of flocks, had taught him to dig wells and draw rivers from the dust. By those wells in the meadows the sons of men and the daughters of earth gathered, where music and laughter mingled with the fragrance of grass. There were weddings, songs, and the spreading of life, for the children of Adapa were fruitful upon the land. But from the heavens the Ijiji looked down, and their hearts were stirred with envy and desire. They no longer wished to watch from afar. The beauty of earth called them, and they descended more often to walk among men and women. Marduk, restless son of Enki, beheld their longing and said to his father, "Let me go to Lamu and be among them. I would watch what transpires upon the lower world." But Enki's eyes, deep as the Abzu, were filled with unease. Too often the gods mingle with the clay-born. "Be cautious, my son, for from desire comes disorder." Yet Marduk's heart was set aflame with curiosity, and his will was not easily turned. In the 102nd Shar, Irid took to wife Baraka, daughter of his mother's brother. Their son, born in the fullness of time, they named Enki-Me, by Enki understanding, for from birth the boy's eyes held the shimmer of wisdom. He spoke the tongue of numbers as a child speaks to his mother, and his mind reached for the patterns of the stars. When word of this reached the Abzu, Enki himself summoned the youth to Eridu. The great lord looked upon Enki-Me and smiled, seeing in him the reflection of Adapa's brilliance. "Come, child," said Enki, "let the secrets once whispered to your forefather now be yours to guard in the chambers of the deep." Enki revealed to him the order of the heavens, how the sun governed the day and the moon the months, how Nibiru's circuit marked the shars that bound the ages. He showed him how he, Enki, had divided the circle of the heavens into 12 stations, and to each he had given the name of an Anunnaki lord. "Thus the firmament honors its rulers," he said, tracing the constellations upon a bronze tablet that shimmered with starlight. "Know them, Enki-Me," he told the youth, "for through them the destinies of gods and men are written. When the station of the fishes wanes, mine shall wane also. When that of the ram ascends, so too shall rise the heir of my blood." But Enki-Me's hunger for the heavens was greater still. "Let me see them with my own eyes," he begged. "Let me behold the chariots of the Ijiji, the vault where the sun's fire dwells." So Marduk was chosen as his guide. Together they soared from the landing place, their chariot roaring like the breath of dragons. They crossed the void to the moon, whose face shone silver over the sleeping earth. There Marduk taught him the mysteries of motion and flame, of flight and balance, of the way the Anunnaki rode between worlds. When Enki-Me returned to earth, he was sent to Sipar, where Utu, the radiant lord, received him in his golden abode. Utu gave him a clay tablet and stylus, saying, "Write all that you learn, for words endure beyond breath." He ordained Enki-me as the first priest among men, teaching him the rites by which gods were invoked and men sanctified. With his half-sister Edeni, Enki-me made his home in Sippar. In the 104th Shar, a son was born to them, Matushal, whom the bright waters raised. In his days, the age of men reached a new dawn. Once more Marduk came, and with him Enki-me embarked upon a second celestial journey. They rose above the curve of the world and circled the sun, visiting the Igigi who dwelt upon Lamu. There the watchers received Enki-me with honor, learning from him the ways of civilized men. But from those minglings, whispers began, of the Igigi taking wives from among the earthborn, of envy and passion that would soon stir rebellion. Enki-me remained with the Igigi until the end of his days, and it was said he walked among the stars like one of them, never to return. Before his departure, he entrusted his writings to his son Matushal, saying, "All that is in the heavens and on earth I have written. Guard these words, for they are the measure of all that shall come." Matushal received the tablets and passed them to his sons Ragim and Gaidad, that they might study them and preserve the order of the heavens. But upon the earth the order began to waver. In the days of Lumak, son of Matushal by Ednat, the toilers raised their voices in complaint. The fields yielded less, the rains grew fickle, and the burdens heavy. Lumak was set by the Anunnaki as supervisor of mankind to enforce the quotas and reduce the rations, and his name, Mighty Man, grew bitter upon the tongues of the people. And it came to pass that Adapa, father of them all, felt the weight of years press upon his bones. His eyes grew dim as the setting sun, and his breath came slow as the wind over reeds. Then he said, "Let all my sons and the sons of my sons assemble before me, that before I depart I may bless them, and speak to them words that endure beyond death." Messengers went forth to every city of men, to the meadows and wells and highlands where his descendants labored. From Sippar and Eridu, from the Abzu and the river valleys, they came bearing torches and tears, for the first man, the son of Enki, was dying. And so began the final gathering of Adapa, the father of the wise, whose seed carried the light of Nibiru into mortal flesh, his life the bridge between gods and men, his death the dawn of remembrance. The heavens watched in silence, for the era of beginnings was drawing to its close. In those days the face of earth grew weary beneath the weight of labor and change, and the winds upon Lamu blew red with dust. The fields no longer yielded easily to the tillers. The meadows withered, and the waters grew thin. From the heavens flares burst forth from the sun like divine tempests, and both earth and Lamu shuddered under their unseen hand. In the high assembly, Enlil, Enki, and Ninmah gathered, those who decree the fates of worlds. They stood beneath the glittering instruments of the observatories, the glow of the heavens cast upon their immortal faces. The storms of the sun burned in their reflections. "What disturbs the harmony of the worlds?" Ninmah asked, her voice low, burdened with time. "The nets of gravity twist," Enlil murmured. "Earth's balance is shifting. Lamu trembles. Even the seas of Nibiru echo their distress. To discern the cause we must observe," Enki said. "Let us place the watchers where the energies meet." In the Abzu, where the waters roared white against the frozen south, they set instruments gleaming like the eyes of gods. Nergal, the fierce son of Enki, was given charge, and beside him stood his consort Ereshkigal, lady of the great below. To the lands beyond the seas, Ninurta was sent, where the mountains thrust their peaks into the clouds. There he raised a new bond between heaven and earth, a pillar of divine resonance, a bridge of gold and lightning. And upon Lamu, where the restless Igigi muttered against their stations, Marduk was commanded to bring peace. Until the cause of these hardships is known, Lamu must endure, Enlil decreed. But as they looked one upon the other, a strange awareness passed between them, the burden of ages. Enki beheld Enlil and Ninmah, and within his heart a quiet sorrow grew. How old the others have become, he thought. It was Enki who spoke first, his tone softened by the ache of remembrance. More than 100 shars have passed since I descended to this world. Once I was a bold commander, full of strength and daring. Now my beard is gray, my hands weary with the dust of creation. Enlil sighed deeply. Once I was eager for command and conquest, he said. Now I have children whose children are born beneath strange skies. We are the elders of a land that was never ours. Ninmah smiled faintly, though sorrow lingered in her eyes. They call me an old ewe now, she said. We have stayed while others return to the comfort of Nibiru. Perhaps it is time to wonder if the command to dwell here was truly ours to keep forever. Each time one of us sought to return, Enki said, word came from Nibiru forbidding it. Why, I have long pondered. Perhaps the difference in our cycles binds us, Ninmah said quietly. Life upon Nibiru flows slow as a deep river, while here it runs swift and fierce. It changes us. They resolve to watch and wait, to let time reveal its counsel. Yet destiny, hidden as the stars behind the daylight, was already stirring. Soon after, Marduk came before his father Enki, solemn and resolute. I bring a matter of gravity, he said, bowing low. The sons of Enlil have taken wives. Ninurta has joined with Ba'u, daughter of Anu. Nanna has chosen Ningal. Ishkur has taken Shala. Even my own brother Nergal by threat and force has taken Ereshkigal to wife, an act that shames her and me alike. Yet I, your firstborn, remain alone. I too wish for a bride. Enki's eyes brightened. Your words bring joy to my heart, he said warmly. Your mother too shall rejoice. But Marduk lifted his hand. Father, he said softly, she is not of Nibiru. She is of earth, a daughter of Adapa's line. Enki froze. Then anger surged through him like a storm tide. A prince of Nibiru, heir to the first command, would take an earthling to wife. Have you lost all reason? Marduk's gaze was steady. Not an earthling, but your own descendant, he said. Her name is Sarpanid, daughter of Enkime, who once journeyed with me to the heavens. She is of my father's teaching, of my own kind and spirit. Enki stood silent, his heart torn between pride and fear. Then he called for Ninki, his beloved. When she came, Marduk repeated his words to her. When I journeyed with Enkime, he said, I saw what father once proclaimed with his own voice. Step by step we shaped a being like ourselves. Civilized man is as we are, save for the length of life. In Sarpanit I see no lesser creature, but one who bears our image truly. Ninki regarded her son carefully. And does the maiden return your gaze with favor? She does, said Marduk. This is not the matter, Enki thundered. Should you do this, you will never again return to Nibiru. You will forsake your birthright forever. My rights on Nibiru? Marduk's laughter was bitter. They are dust already. Even here on earth my place is denied. Then let me claim what is mine, to be king, not of Nibiru, but of earth. Ninki lowered her eyes. Let it be so. Let it be so, Enki echoed, weary with the knowledge that destiny had chosen the path long before his protest. They summoned Matushal, brother of the bride. When he heard Marduk's wish, joy overcame his awe. Let it be so, he said humbly. But when word reached Enlil, wrath blazed like the desert sun. The father may mingle his seed with earth's daughters if he must, he said, but for the son, a prince, to wed one and raise her to rule, this cannot be allowed. Even Ninmah was dismayed. Marduk could have any of our maidens, even mine. But to choose an earthling and thus divide the fates of Nibiru and earth, it is a grave thing. Enlil sent his voice across the void to Anu, the high king of Nibiru. This folly must end, he declared. If it continues, the line of kings will be stained with mortal clay. Anu summoned his counselors and the wise ones of the realm. No law covered such a union, no decree foresaw it. The savants spoke at last. Adapa, the maiden's ancestor, was barred from Nibiru. So too must she be barred. If Marduk weds her, he shall remain upon earth forever. So shall it be, Anu said. Marduk may marry her, but never again shall he be a prince of Nibiru. The message was sent to earth. Enki and Marduk accepted the decree. Enlil, though furious, bowed to the will of Anu. Then Ninki spoke. Let there be a celebration in Eridu. Let the union be honored as it deserves.